All right, are we ready? All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order at 5:30 exactly, right on time. So we'll start with roll call. Cheryl.
All right, Mike Baker. Not yet. Janice Baker. Not yet. Doug Mindenhall,
Here.
Michaela Hammerson,
Here.
Natasha Atkinson here. John Estia.
Here.
Kathy Dewhurst Quarry here. Getting better at that. Okay, one more, there we go. Okay.
And another, be busy. Looks like it's gonna be busy today.
Okay, I think we've got everybody so far and that was in the waiting room.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So let's go ahead and move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Don, do you want to lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Okay, we're gonna go through the consent agenda. Get this out of the way. Felt a little space, but. Okay. All right, so we have multiple minutes that we need to approve. Let's go through July 15th. All right. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, are there any corrections?
I'm trying to remember. One of them, my name was misspelled,
Oh, no.
but it's not that big of a deal.
Do you remember if it was in this one or in the next one?
You know, I'm trying to see. I think it probably was it would have been in the emergency meeting, I believe.
Okay, so not this one.
Right,
Okay.
now that I'm thinking of it.
All right, so, well, it looks like we can do a motion for all of these at once, so let's take a look at the second one. See if we can find that spot.
See.
Was it?
I can.
Was it your last name or your first name?
Well, it was, I just saw the last name on this one from, August 5th. Page 2, this is so, it really doesn't matter because it's more of the, what's going on in the minutes.
Mhm.
It just, you know, how,
Up or down?
so
Oh,
Director Dewars query, the query spelled wrong, but I would say I wouldn't worry about it, we can approve it, and then I can look back over and just say, you know,
I'll be able to search for it.
There we go. That'll be easier. You can just search for it. Okay, so any other substantial changes though to that? Any corrections needed, you guys? No.
I wasn't at the second meeting, so I have to purchase you.
Okay, cool. All right, and then we also have the preventative maintenance report. Oh, and we have more people joining us.
I have a chair over here.
Get over here, I'll step back over here.
Yeah, make me move my stuff.
You guys haven't missed the first motion. So- Yeah, there's two of them right here.
I think this might be a bucker.
Go ahead, and take that one, I'm just gonna move this chair over.
We can fit you in over here.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Do we want to open those doors? It is gonna get so hot.
Turn the air down. We
Okay,
can open them, but I could just go. turn
yeah,
the air down.
maybe just open them anyway, cause it's
Yeah.
getting a little
It's-
claustrophobic in here. Thank you, guys. Okay.
If I could slide it between the keyboard. and-
All right.
Into traffic.
Oh, no problem.
Is
You guys
that
put the train?
accident still out there?
Yeah.
There was a bad accident on Dynamite Boulevard,
Mm.
overturned car.
Oh, no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, just update the attendance to show that
Mike Bicker.
Mike and Janice are here. You just missed the Pledge of Allegiance. That's
Oh,
it.
shoot.
So, you guys go ahead and do it really quickly. Just kidding. Okay, so if there are no comments or corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So
Okay. Kathy made a motion, any second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. Okay, financial report. Sherry, you are up.
Everybody had a chance to take a look at the financial report. I added a report this month, because Mike Baker had specifically asked about the percentage where we were at the end of the year, percentage wise, so. I added that just so that you would have your answer. I know that I told you that we were, but I just wanted to make sure that you saw the report if you really wanted to go over it. Let's see. So our balance sheet, our total assets are 943,620, and total liabilities are 56,488.63. So our total equity is 887,131.37. I did the P&L July 24 report. Let me just take a look. Yeah, so the July report, it shows that the net income for the current month is $139,445 and some change. It does not include the cash on hand at the beginning of July, which was $747,685.67. Total state and federal funds received for July were $468,717. Fair box revenues were $27,826.24. And then our miscellaneous advertising and interest revenues were $830.70. Medical transportation funds were $55,060. The P&L for the current fiscal year report, it would have been the same because we're just 1 month into the new the new fiscal year, so I didn't do that one. And then the P&L from the beginning of 2018, up until today. The overall, the district has a net income of $887,151.37. And then the July variance report is there explaining any overage or savings. If you have any questions about that, please let me know.
do we have 887,000?
We have it. We're saying it. Yeah. Right now,
From the beginning to now. This is our current. Thank you.
and then the July bank statement is on there. You can see where we ended, in the bank. That's what the July.
But we're down 100,000 from that.
We, right now, today, we're at about 646.
Where is the bank statement?
The very last, very last page. Yeah.
No, I don't have one.
Oh, maybe that's,
No, yeah, I don't have the bank statement.
Not for,
Well, that's bizarre. I just attached your whole packet. I didn't make any changes to it.
You want to just say what we're at in the bank?
yes, I think it's what that one is. The July bank statement had a beginning balance of 669,522.83, and the ending balance was 755,820.53.
Can you repeat that second number?
755,820.53. Currently, we've got about 636,983.
All right, any questions for Sherry? All right.
No.
I will entertain a motion to approve the April financial. That shouldn't say April, shouldn't it?
oh, right here.
That's what I get for reading.
July.
Move to
Uh,
approve the July.
The July financial
Second.
report.
Second.
Hey, I caught myself at least. All right. Is there a motion?
Yes. Motion.
Oh,
Seconded.
Andy
Yeah.
seconded. Okay, perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're good.
Okay, who made the motion?
Mike, and I seconded.
All right, we are going to move to public comment for on agenda items only, and we have some public here, so. Who would like to start? Is there any public comment?
I didn't get an agenda.
Yeah, we don't have.
Yeah, we don't have the agenda.
There was no agendas printed out for people that only came in. So I don't know what's on the agenda.
Are those?
No. We've only been making 10 packets because we haven't had anybody else in attendance. So-
Would anybody maybe let her, oh, she's looking. Okay.
Okay.
I can get an agenda out of you.
Yeah, I think we have a couple extras, so. Pass those around.
Too bad, Kat. Just kidding. I can imagine.
And just so everyone is aware too, we had some network issues here at the district over the weekend. And so that has impacted our ability to be able to sort of pre-review the board packet. And then, you know, obviously that's an impact right now, but we can give it just a second if you guys want to take a look at the agenda and let us know if there's anything you'd like to discuss.
And is there anybody online?
Is there anyone online that has any questions, comments on agenda items? Okay. Not see any. I'll just give it a moment. They're looking through the agenda.
I don't have a comment at this time.
No.
All right, perfect. We can go ahead and move on then to old business. So this is our drug and alcohol compliance review update. And Cheryl, are you presenting that?
Yes, and actually there's not a whole lot to present. This is the full review that is attached. And that this is new information for our new directors. This review was complete in November. And the response due date was January. To date, it is not complete. The response folder that I have the last time that I was in doing anything other than document uploads was March 1st, and that was right prior to our financial audit. So I do have a partial response completed, but I do not have the full response. When I do complete that, I can forward that out to all of you as I submit it to RLS as well.
Okay, do we have a projection for completion for that?
It has kind of been ongoing and gets bumped by the emergent issues that come up. So all it takes is for me to be able to get in there and have an uninterrupted time. So
Is it that some of these folks need some training and we have all that stuff and we just have to be able to pull it all together?
like the list of folks that are on.
There's various lists in here.
Section number 1 and
Page
section
3,
number
yes.
2.
So I, on the response that I have all of the documents associated with finding number 1. And I also had all of the documents associated with finding number 2. But
Both 1 and 2 within 2.
those were the right words. And I do not have the response complete beyond that. I do have the signed statements. I do have the statements from OcuHealth as well, but they have not been submitted to RLS.
Okay. And we do have a need to have that completed,
Yes,
but according to ODOT by, do you have that date?
Was it 30th
Andy?
of September?
I want to say the 30th of September, but don't quote me on that. We have ODOT joining us. Jennifer,
Yes, according to the letter, September 30th is the date that has been given.
okay. So, I mean, of course, we would like to get this completed much sooner. It would be great. But are there any resources that you need in order to get it done
just
quicker?
uninterrupted time is all. Don't laugh.
Magic wand.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I definitely would like to just see it be made a priority so that we can close out with ODOT as well. I think everybody's probably on the same page with that. Let's get this under the bridge. So, we don't have to vote on this. So are there any other questions from board members? No, okay, then let's move on. All right, new business. All right, so status of the document upload for RLS, August 26th through 28, for the compliance review. So RLS is coming next week. They're gonna be here for 3 days. We have some documents that we need to provide to them. I know Cheryl, I had seen an update from you via email that that was something you were trying to do this weekend in the network. Yes, we had a network interruption while the documents were available, online.
Yes.
So,
When I first started into it, I realized that we had the wrong credentials.
mhm.
So RLS did respond with the correct credentials for us. So
Okay. Do you have any other update on that? Anything else you wanted to share?
no, it will be pretty quick and easy once I get started.
Okay.
And
So obviously the deadline for that is going to be before they get here, but I think probably the sooner we can get them the documents so they're ready for the audit on Monday.
yes, it needs to be done tomorrow. It should have been done today, but I
Okay.
was completing the work.
7, yeah,
Yeah.
5 business days prior.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions about these documents or the RLS review? All right. Just like zooming right through this, you guys. I know. Okay. Do we have, oh, sorry.
The next page,
I'm like,
and that
this is a duplicate? Nope, it's not. I just need to read it better. All right, so. Monthly one-on-ones between executive committee and UPTD leadership staff. This is something that, was on our action plan to increase communication with the district. We did complete our first one-on-ones today ahead of the meeting. We would like to make this, sort of a ongoing thing, where we can, ahead of the board meetings. We're targeting to have the executive committee, really probably be the ones that are coming in and speaking, but really any board member, can come in and do that. The main goal is just to increase communication ahead of the board meeting. If there are other leaders within the organization that would like issues to be, raised at a board meeting or ideas, we've had some ideas, some really good ideas actually in the past, regarding, how we can, sort of improve service or whatever. It gives them an opportunity to sort of have a direct line with the board. So that was I think a great action item addition, and we just completed that today. So check. All right, so board and leadership training. Do you want me to do this or you want to?
Either way works.
So we do have, we have some board training coming to Roseburg on 9/25. I had sent an email out to all the board members, just requesting that you let Cheryl know if you're going to be in attendance for that, so she can register us for that training. The only thing that I'm a little bit unsure about is whether or not we would need to send public notice if more than 4 people are going to be attending the training.
Yes,
Okay.
we will do that. We can notice it and that it is a public training.
Okay.
So that's- Yeah.
Perfect. And I think right now we have 3 that have committed.
I probably, I wasn't sure. We tell you and then we give you the money. That was the other thing. I
No, the
wasn't-
district's
The
gonna pay
district
for it.
will pay
Oh.
for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I think it's $75.
$75, which is exceptionally reasonable for.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a really important training. It's board member relations, expectations and ethics. So, especially for new board members, including myself, I'm new too. I'm gonna be taking that.
Is that in-person training?
It is in
Yes.
person and I believe it's from
Live?
9 AM to 2
Yeah.
Yes.
PM.
Oh,
can't
I
remember.
don't know.
No, it's at the Holiday Inn.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm. So it should be easy, it's not even a full day training, so if you can commit to it, please let Cheryl know. The other training that is coming up is our annual, where
Open conference,
Yes.
he said.
where did I put that? If I had it, it's somewhere in my paperwork. Do you have information on the conference in front of you?
Oh, just that it is in Seaside from the 27th through the 30th of October.
Okay, perfect. So, there are also scholarships available, for that, and I did complete my scholarship request, just because of our financial state with the district. It would be appreciated if people, would like to attend, if they could, fill out the scholarship, just in case. We may not be awarded all of the scholarships, but it might help us a little bit. Every penny counts, right?
And we could check with Jennifer to see how many scholarships are allowed per entity.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it's been 3, but I don't know if there is a special exception that would be made for the board training here.
Okay, Jennifer, are you available to comment on that?
Yeah, in the past, each agency was afforded 3 scholarships, full scholarships, and then the other part of it was you got as many. If you're a rural agency, then you can get as many up to, not 100, but a limited number of registration only, which is about $500, $400 to $500 per person.
Yeah.
So
So nice, yeah. So do we count as rural?
Yes.
you are.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, if anybody is interested in doing that, please let Cheryl know. And, we'll have to send notice again, right, if we have more than 4 attending,
Yes.
so. All right, that,
Four or more.
4, you're sorry, more than 3 attending, yes, thank you, you are correct. All right, any questions on that? Oh, there's another one too, Jennifer, isn't there a national conference? Or has that already passed?
CTAA was earlier in the year, so we won't have another one. National RTAP will have a conference next year. I believe
Okay.
it's towards the fall next year.
Okay, okay, so nothing urgent on that one. Okay. Status updates for contracts, titles. You want to take that one, Cheryl?
Yes, so, in preparing for the, site review, one of the things that, we found has been overlooked, and that was, I overlooked making this happen, is we did not get the contracts in place for, Sunrise, DRTF, and City of Reedsport. For the current biennium. And so in the process of putting contracts together for those 3 contracts, I was doing the stiff reconciliation, basically seeing what funds were available and what funds had been expended to ensure that I had the right numbers in there. And what I found is that after we go through the STIF funding and those projects tonight, there are some decisions that will need to be made at the board level as to how we will fund the rest of the contract with DRTF and Sunrise, and how we will move forward with City of Reedsport. The titles for City of Reedsport for their vehicles were found, and I did make arrangements for those titles to be taken back to Reedsport with a driver that was coming to pick up a van last Friday. But I found out after the fact that was prevented from happening. So I will be meeting at some point with Charlene and Deanna from City of Reedsport in the next week or so, and we will ensure that they get delivered.
You said to deliver titles.
Mhm. And the contract, whatever it is that we resolve with the contract tonight, I need to meet with them regarding that as well.
Okay, and do we have anybody from Reedsport here in attendance? Okay. Any questions on that?
So it changes the type of funding amount. What does that do to our bottom line? That's later. Okay, thank you.
It's pretty involved.
Kind of thought so.
Yeah.
All right, this is informational only, and since we're gonna learn more about that in a minute, I think we can go ahead and move on. All right. Number 9, project updates.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is share screen.
Okay, I think I have to turn for this.
All right.
And this is not printed out, correct?
No.
Okay.
I, how can I
77
make,
slides, yeah.
how can I make the pop-up go away so that we can actually get to the slideshow.
What if when you click this slideshow itself, it's not popping it forward?
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah, I see.
eliminate
Yeah, I was
the,
trying to see if it would.
yeah.
You
know how
can
to put it on
minimize,
Teams,
go
but-
to the more and minimize that for a minute.
Go up to the top bar where it says slideshow.
She can't see that. It's
Would you-
blocked right now. So right over in the right hand corner where it says more, can you minimize that? Or does that not minimize?
Keep moving your mouse over to the right. I can tell you when to click. Because I can see
It's
slideshow.
like, it's behind the,
There's
like it's
another menu.
literally blocking that entire thing with the Teams is blocking. What if you go down to the bottom and hit Zoom? Yeah, click that. Click that. Will it let you, no? Awesome.
Hmm.
That's fun. Can you grab the PowerPoint in the upper left-hand corner? Drag it down a little bit?
Too, but I have to be able to
You
minimize
might be
it.
able to get it.
You see what I'm saying? Like grab it right there? Nope. Okay, awesome.
Seeing where we need to
It's a
be.
buzzer.
Okay, I know. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment. And then we're gonna go here.
Can you share a document instead of sharing a screen?
I think.
Teams
if
lets
we-
you do that. There you go.
Oh, well, we might have created a new problem here. Okay.
No,
So now minimize before you go back to screen sharing,
Okay.
like bring it down a little bit. I
Okay.
mean, not a lot of bit, but sure.
Well, we'll be able,
Yeah.
well, let's move it down. Oh, no, it doesn't give me.
I
the
think you'll be able to see
Uh,
it.
Grab
as soon
grab
as
where it
it's
says read
in.
only. Touch that part of the screen,
Where do you see?
where
read
it
only?
just says read only PowerPoint.
Oh.
We'll let you drag
Now
down.
drag it.
There we
And if you
go.
grab a corner, you can probably maximize or make it larger too.
So,
Down, go down at the bottom, yeah. Or go down below to the corner, the, where the two edges meet
yeah,
Yeah.
we just need to be able to get that and then we can share.
There you go.
Hard, okay, maybe where.
Right there, click it again. You just click the arrow, that's all. There you go.
Okay, now from the beginning, click no, click where it says from the beginning.
Yeah, let's get
And
the,
it'll maximize it on its own.
oh, it'll maximize on its
As
own.
soon as you do from the beginning.
Okay,
There you go.
all right, so, hopefully this over here will not interfere. Okay, well, let's just go. So this is our STIF, our grant 35544. It consists of two different funding sources. The former STF projects are now the STIF population-based funding. And the payroll tax funding is the other portion of the project. So this is going to take us through the projects, the tasks, the original projections, and then the reduced projections based on what we learned in our financial review, which was that we were drawing down from the projection instead of the actual allocation. So there was a gap there. And hopefully we will end up with a plan for the plan, or at least we know what to work with to maybe have a work group to move forward. So the plan consists of 7 projects and this is just kind of the paving here is one of the first capital projects that we did. And then the vans are some examples of the capital vehicles that we received. And then project number 1 is the former STF, and there are 8 tasks within the project. And project number 2 is fixed route, and there are 11 tasks within that project. Then project number 3 is demand response, which has three tasks within the project. District admin is only the one task. The capital vehicle reserve also has one task. And the capital improvement, so this was supposed to be the match for the building projects for bus and bus facilities grants.
Right.
Project number 7 was capital bus, also shelter reserve. So where we are, let me see if I can move this out of the way, and can we minimize it? There we go. Okay, so the ODOT projection for population-based funding was a total of $580,000. And this right here, the long one here, is actually taken from their projection. And these two numbers do equal the $580,000, and they're within $1. Okay. So when we created the project, and then as we created the project with a plussed up number, that plussed up number we had thought was 20% when we were walking through the financial review. What I found is it's actually 30%. The deficit on this project, just in the STIF funding, is $254,000, or $254,709. You can see this was our assumed balance for each one of these projects. This is the 20% reduction that I had originally started with, and then realized that it was actually 30%. So this is the actual project. The bottom line here is the actual amount available for each one of those projects. And that still comes to $4,308 more than the projection, but that's a workable number. So when we put the project together, it included that 30% plus up, which, it also included a roll forward of other state funds, which was the former STF funding. So this project for mobility management for the call center was built with $42,000 in fiscal year 25, which we're currently in, that was instead expended during fiscal year 2024. The $53,100 of STF other state funding I found was already expended prior to the plan being put into place. So that funding has not been available to us since the plan was put into place a year ago. It also did not take into account the additional 5310 funding that was allocated to this project as a result of the Mercy contract change. When Mercy decided to change their contract and close out their contract, the only way at that point of the process that we could reallocate those funds was to the 3 projects that had been approved by our STIF staff committee. And those 3 projects were the call center mobility management, purchased service, and preventive maintenance. So we added additional funding to the call center. We added additional funding to preventive maintenance, and we changed the way that we intended to fund City of Reedsport with 5310 funding. We had planned to fund City of Reedsport with STIF funding only. I think we'll get to more of that in a little bit. So this is just a snapshot of just project 1, task 1. So that we thought we had 42,726 available at the beginning of the biennium of STIF funding for this project. And it's actually 29,908, and we are already at a deficit in this project of $11,159. So we also had 782,000 worth of grant, 5310 grant funding. And so this requires a local match of 89,528. I do not know how, I can't see how to make it go backwards, so,
There's a little arrow.
You can see it?
Yeah.
okay. So if we go back here, the 41,000 that has been expended was match for the grant. So, you know, it's not like it's been expended somewhere where it wasn't supposed to. But because we thought that there was additional STF funding available, now we have to figure out where to make up that $11,000 negative. And we have to figure out where we're gonna replace what was allocated as STF funding. So this match most likely needs to come from medical transportation income.
And how much is that, 59?
59,620. And then if we go to project number 2, we have the same situation, only different. So, sorry. So task number 2 was Mercy. And of course, this plan was already approved prior to knowing that Mercy was going to end their contract. So those are the dollars, the federal dollars are the ones that were reallocated to the call center and to City of Reedsport and preventive maintenance.
And when did Mercy end their contract?
May 22nd, 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So this project also included STF funding too, which was to be utilized for the match for the 5310 funding. So had Mercy continued, we'd be having this same conversation only regarding Mercy and their contract. We'd be looking, where are we going to make up this funding that we had allocated, thinking that we were completing the project.
So the contract with Mercy really is irrelevant to where we are right now.
It is only in that we don't have Mercy, but we still have this funding that was allocated.
Okay.
So the remainder of this funding, there's 25,000 left in this task. I would recommend that we move that to DRTF and Sunrise, and we'll get to them in just a minute and I'll explain why.
And which amount, that 41,000?
25,000,
$25,021.
because you see, we thought we had 42,000, but we only had 29,000. And there's been 43,000 or 4,378 expended out of it, which leaves us with a balance on that task of 25,000.
It's almost exactly the same number.
Yeah,
There's a question in the
There's
chat.
35 cents.
It's been there for a long
Oh,
time.
has it? Oh, I didn't know that was new.
We can look, but I don't know if we want to take questions right now.
It was on.
okay.
fine.
On a
It was
different-
a while ago.
I think she was talking about the drug and alcohol.
Yeah.
Half an hour ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jennifer.
So there's 25,000 balance available in this task to be reallocated. There we go. Okay, so City of Reedsport also included in the STIF funding portion of it, that 30% plus up. So that 36,000 that you see there for fiscal year 25, that is reduced by 30%. It also included the STF funding that was supposed to roll forward. So that is a deficit as well. The 5310 funding, there was 63,000 or 60,000 that was reallocated from the Mercy project to the city of Reedsport. So at the point that this funding was reallocated to city of Reedsport, city of Reedsport was still utilizing volunteer drivers. So that is important because once they started using paid drivers, employees, that triggers the FTA drug and alcohol pool, which is something that we are now out of compliance because we did not get, I did not catch this.
And when was that change made?
July of 2023, a year ago.
It says the balance of Reedsport 5310 is,
Yeah, we'll go to the next page because
okay, Okay.
so
just make
this.
sure it's gonna be on the
Yeah,
next page, is all.
And I have to apologize. This was one of the tasks that was open when everything froze, when the system went down.
Okay,
And so there might be a few unfinished items in
Okay.
here, but we'll be able to rebuild it. So, oh, okay, we have to go further forward to get to that part.
Okay.
Okay, so, and it's about 20,000.
okay.
But so their assumed beginning balance was 36,000. When you reduce it by the 30%, it brings it down to 25,200. So far, 5,882 has been utilized appropriately for match for this project, which leaves a balance of 19,317. Our challenge is that they're now utilizing paid drivers. So they're using about that number per quarter. That's what they used last quarter. And that's all there is left. So for the 5310, here again, they had a $60,000 allocation, which would have been the 6,867 in match, which would have left this $26,000 balance. However, there is a $17,000 reimbursement request that is pending right now, which actually reduces that 5310 funding to 8,322. So this leaves a total of $6,910 for our city of Reedsport to be able to utilize for the next 4 quarters, this quarter that we're in and the rest of this fiscal year. So this is why I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work with city of Reedsport and see if there are any things that we can do to be able to continue service at some level. And what that looks like.
And what is the pending reimbursement?
It is for Q4 of this last year.
Okay,
Yeah, so and
to
that's,
ODOT.
it's from ODOT to us. We submitted the reimbursement for their invoice of 19,740.
Okay, so I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
This is a silly question, I guess, but they were operating using unpaid drivers, right?
They were.
Can't they continue,
Volunteer.
they can't continue to do that?
Well, I think what happened is they didn't have enough volunteers
Not enough volunteers.
to be
Yeah.
able to continue, so
So-
but there again, that's a conversation that hasn't been completed yet because this was really fairly new information to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so just,
The
sorry, I
math isn't
don't,
mathing, sorry, it's bugging me.
No, the math isn't mathing.
Yeah, 26,305, Sherry, correct me. Minus 17,713 is 8,522,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
I know it's $200, but it was just tripping me out.
okay.
Sorry,
And I don't know, yeah, okay.
I had to do it up here to make sure that my brain wasn't messing it up.
Thanks for catching my. Okay, and I honestly, I believe that what we'll need to do is have a work group where we can put all the projects, all the tasks, all the funding sources and what those totals are and work that through so that we can put down on paper that, because there will have to be a motion made to move between tasks, the information, or I mean, the funding.
And so just before we leave this though, just theoretically, if we were to get volunteer drivers, is this enough for Reed Sport to operate anyway? I mean, do we have enough funding for them?
They'd have to reduce some of their service still because they were running at about 8,000 a quarter prior, 7,500 a quarter, somewhere in there. So there would still, but there is another option available further forward as well that would give them about 7,000 more to add to this.
Jennifer raised her hand.
Just a quick note about the volunteers versus paid drivers. It doesn't matter whether they're paid or volunteer, because the district runs the 5311 rather than contracting it out. That throws all of the providers that you contract with into the pool. So anybody that you contract with for 5310 is required to do the drug and alcohol because you guys run the 5311 program. That's what RLS told us. I believe the last time we had a review, but they still will have to, if Reed Sport continues, they still, no matter whether they have volunteers or whether they have paid drivers, they will still have to be in a pool of some sort.
5311 is the fixed route. 5310 is the dial.
But it's the trigger.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
The trigger. It's like the federal funds business. If you have $1, throws you over.
perfect.
All right.
So no matter what, even if we fixed, even if they went back to volunteers tomorrow, they're still running at a shortage of a minimum of like almost 20 grand.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
well,
A little bit more than,
it could be closer to, it could be closer to 4. Really, because they were running less than $10,000
Okay.
a quarter. Prior
Okay.
to,
okay.
I- Sherry might have, actually,
Can you see it? No.
I can't see the back.
So is there any expense associated with them being in the drug and alcohol pool?
The expense is just
Just
the
sending
testing.
them to the
The
for testing, so very minimal impact.
Right, so, it's some of the emails that have gone back and forth and some of the suggestions were that, for FGD to add, Reed Sport to our pool, which is what we tried to do with Mercy. And then when we had our drug and alcohol, site review and our misreporting, the DMS drug and alcohol. Well, when we had that reporting, what we found is they still have to track their own program. They still have to ensure that their program is in compliance, so it doesn't do any good to put them in our pool. What they need to do is put them in the pool at like OcuHealth, so that they are covered there.
How do we have oversight of it if it's delegated out to them? Do we have an ability to pull reporting or anything like
We can
that?
request,
Right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and do we need to have the ability to have that reporting so that we can prove to ODOT that we're in compliance?
So they actually take care of that part of it when we do the drug and alcohol reporting at the beginning of each year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can delve a little bit further into that when we, as we go through drug and alcohol site review, response, because some of that will come up then as well.
Okay.
Reed Sport for the first half of the biennium, their total between federal and match was 57,290.
What was it per quarter? Because it was only 19,000 this last quarter.
Right, so if you average it, it would be 14,000 per quarter, but they started out like Q1 was much smaller and then they've been growing.
What was the much smaller? That's
It was.
Oh, cause that's when I started hiring. Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Was the after that? 97.
okay.
And now they're up to 19, so.
Okay. Yeah, big difference, yes, so, so that, what there is available depends on it makes a difference in what we write into the contract. You know, as what's already been expended and what there is left to expend.
Okay.
So,
So at their current rate, their current burn rate, they're out halfway through. They can do
They're out
one
through this
more
quarter.
and then, okay.
Do they operate every day?
yes. Yes. So DRTF, they are a client-only program and they receive the STIF funding only. This plan, they submitted an application when we did the notice that there was funding available. And their application was approved and awarded through the STIF stack process and recommended forward to the board to approve. And they were $30,000 for their application. But their application also included 15,000. They're not their application, but their assumed award included 15,000 as well of theirs. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Well, and then the task category total was 15,000 for 2025, but it's 30% less than that.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's why my recommendation with with,
the extra 29,400.
yeah, I believe it's task number 2. We'd have to go back there. The 25,000 would be.
Oh, 25,021. Got it.
So if, and I just did it in order, so we could potentially take the full 15,000 for DRTF from the former Mercy task, and I believe that's task number 2, and keep them whole. They've already had the full 15,000 paid out to them for the first 4 quarters. And that 30% reduction actually puts that task into a negative 4,500. So there's actually 19,500 that needs to be allocated to make them whole. Yeah. Excuse me, just a minute. And task number 5 is Sunrise, and they're the same situation as DRTF. They applied, they went through the local process through the STIF staff committee. They were awarded 24,000 for the biennium. And the 12,000 shown here for fiscal year 25, that is before the 30% reduction. And there was 12,000 of STF funding built into it as well.
Minus the 30% for the 12,000.
For
year
this
two.
12,000,
Yeah.
but not for that one. Yeah.
You're saying none of the 12,000 is there, or only
Mhm.
the 9,000 is?
And that,
Well,
it's instead of being 24,000, it's 9,000.
So this, that is,
Yeah, so
it
they're
actually
negative
ends
too.
up being 8,400 is what was left.
Well, I just want to say, so the 30% reduction is annual, right?
The 30% reduction is for the entire project as a whole. So project number 1 is a 30% reduction. But they were only awarded STIF funding for fiscal year 2025.
Not for 24?
24, it was supposed to be STF funding,
Not,
but what we found is that during the site review was that it was, expended before the plan went into effect. Yeah,
Jennifer raised her hand.
I don't see her hand.
It disappeared.
I have my hand up. It's still up.
Speak,
Um,
Jennifer.
So on DRTF, I have been trying to get them to report on their vehicles since 2017 and have met with Chris several times, and he has not complied with that. So technically, and I think you and I talked about this, Cheryl, at the beginning of last biennium, they need to start reporting on their vehicles because they are not reporting on their vehicles. And so if it were me, I would hold the funding until they got caught up on their reporting. So
Aren't they providing mileage to you when on the report?
Yeah,
So-
but they have to go in when we were
Report
providers.
on
like,
their
we have a
vehicles.
part- We have a part that we have to do that you guys don't do.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
but I can,
They provide.
side
it, but I don't
note,
have
I
anywhere
can
in
reach
our
out to,
reports
I
that
can
goes that
talk to
mileage
Chris
on their
about the
vehicles.
importance of that.
Okay, and I can walk him through it too. Okay, so
Tony got called out.
But this one,
So this one is, it was a $3,600 reduction, which took that amount that we had available allocated to this project down to 8,400, which leaves us with a deficit for the first year of 3,600. And there is still 12,000 allocated to this project.
So really 15,600 is what's needed, correct?
Yes, right there.
Yeah, okay.
I was thinking, I think I put it on there, I just wasn't sure.
Those are the
So,
numbers you need to get.
yeah, so I was thinking when we do, if we do a work session and we do all of the projects and with all of the tasks and all of the funding sources, then that will make it easier and we can put it on a spreadsheet and actually work on the spreadsheet as we're going through, which will give us, real numbers as we do it. So, this, there again, there,
Could come from medical, okay.
yeah. So if we were to assume that we provide the full amount of DRTF from Mercy task number 2, that would leave a balance of 5521 in that task that we could allocate toward Sunrise. And then recommend that 10,000 of that come from medical transportation to keep them whole. Because then the sheer number of rides that they do it's insane. It's over 10,000, usually around 15,000 a quarter. And the service is so vital. I really believe that we made an award and we need to, stand by the award. But that's just my opinion.
Do we see the medical transport, how that's
It'll come,
later?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what I tried to do was build, and go through project by project, task by task, what the plan was, what we thought we had, what we realize now we have, and then what the end result of that is. And for some of them that I have possible fixes, for others, I don't. Others, it's gonna be all hands on deck to figure out what we're gonna do with it.
Can I ask a weird question?
Yes, ma'am.
When we go to have this conversation, I need to abstain from one part of the vote.
That's okay.
Does
you
that
can
mean that I
declare
can't? Okay, can I participate in the rest?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so the preventive maintenance. So this is preventive maintenance that we allocated to be utilized by all demand response projects. So it could be utilized by City of Reedsport, it could be utilized by our paratransit or by Dial-A-Ride. Any demand response project, we can utilize this funding for preventive maintenance. So
So because it's task 6, we can bump it up to tasks 1 through 5. Is that what you're essentially saying? Or no?
oh no, so this is.
Clarify for me, I'm sorry.
This is preventive maintenance funding that
Uh-huh.
can be used by any demand response service.
Thank you.
But I wouldn't recommend moving it anywhere because everybody has preventive maintenance. And like City of Reedsport is a really good example. They just had a $2,000 repair on one of their vehicles. Yeah, so, here again, though, after the reduction, it's 52,500, and this is what has been expended for the 4 quarters so far. So we still have a balance of 36,883. But we have multiple preventive maintenance buckets, and some of them we've expended, I believe. Or have we? Do we still have?
We only have that one's for demand response, and then the 5311 has their match for the.
But the 5311 has a preventive maintenance for fixed route, and didn't we have another grant for preventive maintenance? Okay. All right,
Well, the 5310 has preventative maintenance on the federal grant. Has for demand response for the federal portion. And then only the matches going there.
Okay.
okay, so task number 7 is paratransit. And yeah, that 30% reduction on this task is huge. So we started out thinking we had 300,000 in this bucket, which became 210,000, but we've already expended 120,887. So was
It was her thing. It just made me giggle.
I didn't know what it was. I knew I heard noises.
So that's 40,000 short, 30,000, yeah. 31,000.
There's more to this one because
Okay.
there's another paratransit project. So the two of them together is where I've done the summary. And then task number 8 was the 5311 match. So there again, we took 5311 funding and we projected what the match would be for the funding that we knew that we were going to get at the time that we created this plan. After we created this plan, the amount of 53 funding that was allocated to UpTD was increased in a rate sizing project that ODOT did. So we got more money for 5311, which was awesome. But that also increases the amount of match money required. And as you can see, we projected for 312,000, but that got reduced to 218,000.
I have a question about that, just for my own. On the 5311 federal match, it's the 8th task in project 1. And project 1 is population based, correct? But isn't population based money for senior and disabled?
Right, and fixed route provides about 28% of our ridership is for seniors and people with
This
disabilities.
is what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, yes, that the STF funding was always our match for
Okay.
5311 prior to creating the district. So, if we had, prior to the financial audit, we didn't know what we didn't know. If we had had the actual numbers, then we would have limited this project to a maximum of 39,000 per quarter and adjusted elsewhere. But at this point, we've expended all of the funding that was available and we're at a $24,000 deficit. So this kind of summarizes the whole of what we just went through for project number 1. And I will print this out into a PDF file that I can send out to everybody
Yes, please.
that is on the call. So, or in the room or on the video here.
And then I know at the beginning you said that we were drawing down on the plan numbers, not on the actual numbers.
That's what we have been doing.
No, but my tracker, I draw down on what we've actually received, not by the plan numbers.
So let me go backwards here. Because what I did is the tracker that you forwarded to me.
Mhm.
I pulled that over and created a new tab. And then I started these numbers are your tracker. All I did was insert the lines and reduce the number until it came down to what it needed to be to match what our allocation is. So we've expended, this is based on what you provided to me, we've expended these numbers, this total.
Right.
But what we actually had within the project is this number. So we expended this, but we only had this, is why we have a
Projected that.
We'll have to sit down and go through this together, because I don't agree with. Yeah.
Well, I took this from your spreadsheet. Because that is my directive,
Maybe-
is to take my numbers, my financial numbers from finance, and that's what I did. And I can actually pull the spreadsheet up that was provided to me and show you how I came to the numbers if we need to do that.
So, we are more than likely looking at having a work session
Yes,
to make sure that all these numbers work. So that'll be a good time for us to reconcile and we don't have to do
and
that in
Sherry
the
will
moment, but
absolutely need to be a part of that.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Had-
so there may be some changes. There might be
Yeah.
some shift.
I would like for Jennifer also to be involved in it, just because, you know, she has a lot of.
Well, it will be a public meeting, so she is welcome.
All right, so here are our project assumptions, and it's just everything that we just went through. That after the reduction, our task number one is negative $11,000. But we need to complete the year 59,620 for what's left from, for the match for the call center.
Right.
The Mercy task, my recommendation would be to reallocate those dollars to DRTF and Sunrise. The task 1.3 is City of Reedsport, and we're talking through that to figure out what we can do. And then DRTF is 1.4, Sunrise is 1.5, and 1.6 is the 5311 match. And 1.7 is paratransit, and that is, we're gonna look at that with task number 3.1 because there is additional funding in there. So it's a lot of information, and it's definitely something that we need to go through in a work session. And I will provide all of this to you with the spreadsheet that I worked up with. And prior to us doing that, so you can go through and do your figures as well.
Okay.
And then when we go to payroll-based projects, which are projects 2 through 8. And that plussed up plan was $4,429,107. The ODOT projection was $3,432,600. That is the combination of these two numbers that were taken directly from the ODOT projection. And as you can see, that's a difference of
986,000.
Thank you. I had thought that initially that it was a 20% reduction across the board for the entire plan. What I found is it's actually for projects 2 through 8, it's 22.27%. So it's not the 30% that project number 1 was, but it's not 20% either. This is where we're going from here. So project number 2 is payroll-based funding, and it is our fixed route projects. And so you can see this is the assumed beginning balance is what we had for each one of these projects, which came to a total of $2,665,444. With a reduction of 22%, 22.27% of $593,594. For a total of $2,849,062. And here again, the expenses are what we've expended for Q1 through 4. Our Q2 was different because we had the final CARES funding that we had available to us, so that greatly reduced our expenses for Q2 that were against this project, and they were allocated to the CARES funding.
And do we know what that number was? Like
CARES
what should Q2 have it cost us?
Oh, about the same as Q1 or Q3.
Well, they're
somewhere.
very different though. That's why I was kind of wondering if there was.
Q2 had 215,319 in fixed route and operations. And 69,673 in the para portion of the CARES.
So closer to Q1.
Closer to Q1 then.
Yeah, so you could see that all of
Q3
these,
we also had
Some CARES funds, that makes sense.
yeah,
Okay, so we're looking more at Q1 as being the actual.
Do we have anything in Q4?
you have to remember, Q1, we didn't have any cuts either. To any of
Right,
the
so
routes or
is Q4 the number we should look at as our approximate?
Projection, yeah.
Even that has 2 of the months that we didn't have any changes made, so it only has for June that we actually made.
So it would-
cut some changes.
We could expect it to be less than Q4.
In which case that implies that there's enough funding in this.
when we get, no. When we get a little bit further,
200 times 4 is less than 1.2.
when we get a little bit further into this, there is a projection that Sherry provided that lists out all of our grants and what the expected income from each one of those are. And she also did a projection of all of our expenses. So that will give you a more solid idea, because I know she put a lot of work into that.
Okay.
So, as you can see, the reductions across the board are significant for what we actually had available. And I'm gonna go ahead and move forward because here we had, okay, so we're on project number 2, task 1. We had a total of $340,000 in the plan, but that's actually after the 22.27% reduction to 264,000. 5311 still has 286,000 left in it. But the match for that 286,000 is a 43.92% match of 125,000.
Can we stop for just a second on that match? Is this one of the matches that is eligible for in kind or no?
It is. Okay. It is indeed. Yes. Which is very timely for the
Donation that we just received.
yes, the in-kind donation that you
Yes.
just arranged for us, yes. So when we're looking at this project as a total, our initial thought was that we had 870,000, excuse me, in federal funds for this project. But it ended up being a little bit more than that. And I have to apologize. I don't believe that I pulled from the grant the exact number for you. And but I can,
11?
Yeah.
The operation, would you, which portion of it do you want?
the,
Operations.
this was for,
That's
yes,
for-
fixed route operations, yes.
529,156.
Per,
That was the federal portion of the grant.
So let's start at the 435. Where you
So
are?
that's for both years?
Yes.
So say it again, I'm sorry, one more time, 500 and what?
So the federal portion of the 5311 grant is 529,156. The match is 414,417.
Which is where we would have come to that.
943, 570.
What, can you say the match
Okay,
again?
943, is that what you said?
The total between the two is 943, 573.
Okay, so that is the difference between what we actually received and the 870, the 943 and 870. So we received more for the 5311.
943, so $70,000 more ish.
The match is
Okay.
414,417.
So we're gonna keep building on this one. So
Okay, so I was gonna say, it says we need 150, but we can take 70 off of that and we really needed 80.
No.
Okay. Definitely lost.
First time seeing it, so I don't know. I haven't heard any part of it.
So I'll go forward. So the negative 125 was
Okay.
from the match that's overexpended from project number 1.
Okay.
Okay. So when you take the assumed beginning balance for Roseburg route, so we're going task by task. We thought we had 340,000, it's actually 264. And these, we've expended 127,000. And that the balance left available in that project is 136,372.
Which even though it looks like it's okay, it's not, because clearly there was CARES money there.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. So,
But is the 40,000-ish the range we're looking for in
Yes.
reality?
yes.
So we'll be negative about 30 grand.
So based on the Q4 expenses, so what I did is I took our actual expenses from the quarterly report. And so what you see here, the 156,985, that was our Q4 expense for the Roseburg route Monday through Friday. When you multiply that out by 4, you've got 627,940 to complete 2025. So looks like we're gonna get approximately 164,000 in fare box, but when I looked at the budget detail for the reports that were submitted, it appears as though there are other funds that the fare box is also being it's put in there and subtracted from operating expenses, but it looks like there's probably other expenses in there as well. So we can look at about 100,000 for fare box on that. And then when,
And those numbers should be lower, just because Q4 did include the 2 months without the reductions.
but there were no reductions to the Roseburg route.
None at all.
No.
Nothing was affected.
No.
Okay.
No reductions to the Roseburg route. And that's why I have a recommendation coming up here pretty quick too. So, Roseburg route, we've got 627 required. Project number 2 has 136,000. 1.9 is a negative 24,125. If we assume 100,000 in fare box, that's a negative of 415,693. For what we have projected for Roseburg route. Saturday service. It was actually in good standing and it was projected almost exactly what it should have been. Except for there's the reduction. So once the reduction comes into play, then we end up being for the next 4 quarters. If we continue at the same rate, we would be a negative 25,550. So here again, it's further forward. We're sharing, and I apologize for not getting the total number of medical transportation in here sooner. It's further forward. But this is if you had a running balance and took what was already recommended to be covered by medical transportation, that's what would have been left at this point. And if utilized to cover that 25,000 for Saturday service, that would leave about 213,000. So then, if you go to task number 3, which has already been reduced, Sutherland service was reduced. We made those cuts at the, gosh, I think it was in May. And the total number, even though it is less than what we had projected and had been drawing down from, we're still in the black, and we should finish with about a $10,000 reserve in operations funds for the Sutherland route. This is a repeat for Winston route. We should, one more slide, sorry. That's where we were. Here's where we're going. Oh, and I don't know why it gave me a really pretty color slide there. But it did, and I left it. So we should end up with, for Winston route, about a $29,000 reserve. And these are all, let me go back and show you. Each one of these, I took the numbers here, which are the miles related costs and hours related costs that are associated with our Q4 report. So they're actual numbers.
And they could be slightly lower because we didn't make the change until 2 months into Q4.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I think theirs was 1 month in.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, it should be.
Close.
It should be that or slightly higher as the reserve, yes. So South County route had rolled forward funding that had been allocated to South County route from a previous plan. So project number 2, task 5, had same issue where it is reduced to 580,154. But because the prior biennium had funding rolled forward, there should end up being about 97,000 in reserve.
Okay.
When we go, so Lifeline is the connector that we had planned to connect with Josephine County at Wolf Creek and Lane County at Cottage Grove. And so this is money that has been in the plan since 2018 and has rolled forward. And then we had to go, as a result of the finance review, we had to go back and reduce a lot of the projects that had funding in them in order to make everything right. And Sherry did that with ODOT to ensure that that the adjustments were made correctly. So we assumed that we had 20,000 of STIF funding that we were putting into this project for, from this plan. After we reduce it, that's actually 15,000. And then when you take the total reserve for this project, because, oh, whoops, let's go back. Because that math is not mathing for me. Okay, so prior biennium funds were reduced from 322,000. That was the number here, to 68,949. And that was a result of our financial review where we made this correction backwards into the previous plans.
Josephine County or Josephine Community Transit is getting ready to do a plan, just to look at it. So
Yes,
it won't be implemented by them.
I-5 corridor plan,
Right, yeah,
yes,
I-5
we'll
corridor.
get to be a part of that.
Right, but I just wanted to say it won't be, obviously it won't be implemented.
Yeah.
This year or probably next.
No. So, so that total that we had anticipated being 342,000 in reserve or being able to start the project, we had actually submitted for a grant to start this project before we realized that there was an issue. But that grant we did not receive. So there's the 84,495 for that one.
And that reserve is stuck, right? Like that 84,000 is allocated to that, it's not.
It's allocated to that and can only be transferred to operations projects.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
On that. So this one, same deal. We didn't allocate any funding for this one for this from this biennium, but we did have funding that we rolled forward from the last biennium. That funding was also reduced. I'm having a hard time reading this.
Because the
Yeah.
project has been building a reserve to start the route and purchase a bus if necessary. Unfortunately, the reserve was utilized as general fund and has been completely zeroed.
Oh, reserve is zeroed. Okay. Oh, that would be why there's a zero there. Okay, so we thought we had that. We do not have that. This was also backwards allocated to fix the previous plan. And then same thing with this one. It was,
YMCA.
Yeah.
Got it.
so, Saturday Sutherland service was also something that we had hoped to be able to start in 2025. The reduction for this one takes it from the 47,000 that was in the plan to 36,533 for the reserve. Winston is the same thing. We had hoped to be able to start Saturday service for Winston, and that was reduced to 36,144 in the reserve. And Kids Ride Free, so this was a total of $5,000 for the whole of the biennium. There's only, I believe, 1,000, oh, there it is, 1,882 left to expend for fiscal year 25. So either way, it's kind of a wash, you know. If we leave it at the 5,000 and don't reduce it, it's still only got the 1,882 left to expend. So when we take all of those routes and the required amount, and then the projects that apply to them, that leaves us with these deficits and these reserves. And if we took every single one of these reserves and applied it to the deficit, we're still at 147,463 in the negative. So when we are projecting the reductions, the Roseburg route, if we look at the current cost per hour, removing the preventive maintenance, because preventive maintenance is covered by another funding source, that cost per hour is $75.18, based on this last quarter's expenses. And then each quarter we run about 2,088 hours, depending on how many service days are in the quarter. So 121,912 divided by 75.18 is 1,622 hours of service that we would have to reduce over 210 service days between 9/1 and 6/30, which would be a 7.75 hour a day reduction, which is not, it's not feasible.
No.
That is, it would damage the people that utilize the service. It's just too much. Using the same method for Saturday service with the the 25,000 divided by the number of hours, that is 85, 75 an hour. It's a little bit higher number for Saturday service because, we actually have them cover each other's lunch breaks and stuff like that, so, so over the 43 remaining service days, it would be a 7-hour reduction. And that's what it would take, for, the rest of the year, starting, September 1st. That's the level of reduction that we would have to do if we were looking at just reducing service to resolve the fixed route.
September or October?
September,
Right away.
Yeah.
Immediately.
and that it would be different. It would be a larger number of hours if you waited until October. So, the assumption, is the same. So our challenge is we have, we can either, do a combination of cut service and cut employees, or, we can just, cut the service. And I would recommend that we need to make some, employee, personnel cuts. The one that is obvious is the second transit supervisor. And the only reason that I can recommend that one is because we ran for 16 years. That I know of with only one transit supervisor. It does make it more challenging. And you have to be creative to ensure that you are here some days a week to be able to, or the other option, well, for the drug and alcohol, eye to eye, face to face, reasonable suspicion, that you are supposed to be doing with your employees at the beginning of the shift.
So just pause there for a second. So a transit supervisor must come in contact with every employee at least at the beginning of their shift.
That's the recommendation, yes.
Okay.
So there are a lot of small systems that's not.
And does that have to be the supervisor, or it looks
can
like we
be
have a manager, 2 supervisors and an assistant? Can it be any of those 4 humans?
It can be any of them that is trained for reasonable suspicion determination, yes.
Okay.
So
So we can cross-train
Manager, supervisor,
managers
assistant.
to fill in for those positions.
Mhm. Okay.
So, then we add one more piece into the equation here, in that our operations manager did provide his resignation last week as well.
Which is
So we're,
September 4th.
yes, yes. So we're gonna have to fill that position. It absolutely has to have somebody that has
Yeah.
solid transit experience running that position.
Hmm.
So
So that's a non-negotiable position.
it,
I mean,
in my
in my
opinion,
mind,
yes.
that's a non-negotiable position, but
yes,
is it actually? What, I guess, from a compliance standpoint, are we required to have that position?
the requirement is to have somebody that is knowledgeable enough about fixed route and demand response, FTA requirements, all of that kind of stuff, to be able to guide. We have 2 brand new supervisors that are already making questionable recommendations. So it has to be somebody that has the knowledge to say, no, we can't do that. No, this has to be done that way, with authority, and knows where to look it up to find the answers.
So what do, just because I know you have some experience with other transportation districts, what does their structure look like? Do they have a similar position?
So if we take Coos Bay, for example, which is a a system that's, you know, comparable size. They're a little bit smaller than we are. Yes, they have a general manager and an operations manager and a supervisor
Mhm.
and anything else they use.
The supervisor is like a transit supervisor or what kind of a transit supervisor? Okay.
Yeah, and they use lead drivers in the absence of supervisor or manager.
And compared to us, I mean, size wise, is their district smaller?
Well, it's Coos County,
Mhm.
and
63,000 versus 110.
mhm,
So it's
And,
small.
land wise, they're
Right, Douglas
nearly a
County.
They're on the
third,
coast.
they're like a third of us.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of land to
Mhm.
cover.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
I think we should entertain like a workshop with all of us
Mhm.
to be involved in these numbers, because I don't.
Oh, we are
I don't
definitely
come up
having a
with any of
workshop.
the things.
There's gonna be
I
a
would
lot
like to see where she's coming up with the
Yeah.
numbers and saying we have to.
Absolutely, and just, this is
And we're
for
not done.
informational only, we aren't taking any action today, and I would not want to take any action today, but,
Right.
yeah.
So the other thing that we have happening right now is there is an extra board that is built into the schedule for most days of the week. And that extra board is somebody that is on site, that is available just in case something goes wrong, just in case somebody needs a bus, just in case, you know, there's a breakdown, that kind of stuff. And so oftentimes that extra board is idle. And they do bus washing, they do shelter cleaning, things of that nature, all things that need to be done. But it is a luxury to have that position. So, and that, there again, that's just my opinion. Not my decision. So when we go on to project number
Can you-
3,
Sorry, just for a second, how many slides do we have left, and do we want to take a quick
I don't,
break for people to use?
I
the
think we're
bathroom?
about half, well, we're actually closer to. I can't tell how many.
Three
slides.
quarters, yeah.
I can't
I would think
read.
it'd be about three quarters, because you're in task,
You
you're
do
in
want-
project 3.
Do you
I
need
need
a
to rush it too. I'm just thinking, we've been at this for how long now? Almost 2 hours. And people may need a break. Can we do a quick recess, or is there a better
Okay.
spot for us to recess?
No, that's fine. And do you want me to do a stop share while we do that? Or
You can just
Okay.
leave it up,
leave it
but,
up?
maybe mute us, since we're not having public conversation while we're in recess.
I don't know how to.
Right there. After lunch.
Okay,
Yep.
so.
So we will reconvene. What do you guys think? 10 minutes?
Sure.
Do we want to
Okay.
do, what would that, like 7:20?
7:20.
7:20. Okay, we'll reconvene at 7:20. Okay, we're unmuted. Okay. So when you're ready,
All right.
you're
I'm
ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting back to order at 7:20. Take
Okay.
it away, Cheryl.
So project number 3 has 3 tasks within it, and they are paratransit, dial ride, and city of Greensport. And so whoops. I left these
Sorry, Kathy.
3 all together. So you can see, this is the other, 3.3 is the other resource that I was talking about for City of Reedsport. There was a reserve project in there that had been rolled forward. And so there's that. So paratransit, we had an assumed beginning balance of 553,000. And that 22% reduction brought it down to 430,000. Dial-A-Ride, we assumed at 290,000, and that brought it down to 225. And City of Reedsport brought it down from 10 to 770,
Okay,
7,773.
and I know we said this an hour ago, but why was there an assumed beginning balance and then 22.27 left?
So there is the ODOT projection that goes out for the stiff funding.
Okay.
And then the recommendation to providers is that the plan include a 20% plus up. That in the event additional funds come in, then you'd actually be able to expend them. Our mistake was we're drawing down from the plussed up number instead of the actual number.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
And what was the reasoning behind that? Is that just a learning curve for us, or that's just a learning?
And apparently that is a learning curve for a lot of agencies across the state. We're not the only one in this situation.
Okay.
And I don't know if others caught it sooner or.
And you
or
said
what.
this is new, though. This is,
The STIP
within
funding,
3
this is
years?
only the third round of STIP funding, and the first round came as we were thinking the district up. And so a whole lot of the projects that were included in that plan were not actually started. So, and we had an offsite accountant at that time. So not 100% focused on the
It was only
Special
it was only for existing service too, not new service, but we were new district too.
yeah.
So it's kind of weird. you know,
Okay.
And so in some ways, we were treated then as only existing service that Douglas County was providing. So we didn't really. have
Yeah,
new
so
service.
there were a lot of well, and coming over here, instead of being subcontracted, you know, there were just so many changes that in 2020, we were not able to implement service. We were able to bring back the service that had been cut due to COVID. So, yeah.
Mix all of that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I just left these all together because it makes it easier to just see across the board. The total reduction for the 3 projects was 190,000. And then when we go to the next one, you can see again, task 1 was paratransit. We assumed that we were gonna have 553,000, and we assumed that we were gonna have 20,000 in STF. So, we got reduced on the stiff, you know, to the actual of 430,000. And the 20,000 was expended, yeah, prior to the plan starting. So paratransit services.
So on
there's-
future stuff plans, are we gonna just show the projected and then just show a whole nother sheet? For if there's 120%?
Yeah, so we need to, to be really clear.
I'll put them on the same sheet and block it, just say, here's one sheet.
You need
it's
to make a
completely
bucket
set
for
at
the-
100.
For the reserve.
If there's extra,
If there's
X, Y, Z.
Well,
Got it.
and the plan, can't be the numbers that we put into the budget.
Right.
So
Right.
we're gonna have to do, here's the plan, but here's the reduced number for the budget that actually fits within the ODOT
I
projection.
wonder if it's easier just to have one sheet for the 100% and then another sheet for the, if it's 120, you just add another 20. You copy it and then add another 20% of projects. in there.
Right, so that's been some discussion is that
Keeps it, it's easier to look at and
Yep.
figure out.
if you have an operations bucket, that is, if we receive additional funding, it can be utilized for either fixed route or demand response, or you might have to have two separate
Or it's
ones.
the whole separate blocking,
Mhm.
but nothing. in-
But you
Got
could
it.
simplify it to 4 groups.
Yeah.
Fixed route, demand response, admin, and capital. And so that is probably really the smart way to do it going forward, but it's,
Yeah.
now we know the smart way.
Well, and plus, if we end up getting that accounting system, I'm
It'll
assuming
make
that
it-
function is sort of built into there.
Yeah, it'll make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, paratransit is in trouble. We've already expended 265,000 of this project here. Paratransit requires. Where is it? Oh, is it not on this page? It's not on this page.
So was this service reduced when we reduced Winston and Sutherland? Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
cause right now guesstimate is we're short 100,000, but it might not be that bad due to reduction of
A
service.
recent exception.
Got it. Thank
Good, good
you.
commuter routes, yeah.
Well, except for you can see that the number went back up again in Q4, so it's an unknown at this point.
Why was Q3 so low?
Cause we had COVID.
COVID funds. Got it. CARES money. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here, I've added in task 1.7 because that was the paratransit funding that was in the STF or the former STF dollars, project number 1. So there's 89,000 left in that project and 165,000 left in this one for a total of 254,176. But when we look at the total expense for paratransit for Q4, and if we multiply that out by 4, then we need 400 and
28,252.
We also had a lot of
Where do you see?
overtime for
The
April
bold
and May.
black.
thank you.
We had a lot
Pardon?
more drivers and a lot more overtime for the first 2.
For the
months
first
of
2 quarters.
Q4.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, cause that was reduced. Right,
It was reduced in June.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the refresher.
So, yes. So based on Q4 expenses, if they're, fairly accurate, we need 428,000 to complete 2025. Which leaves us at a deficit of 174,000. So there again, if we look back into the medical transportation, if we used it for this bucket, that running number was 213,000 that was left with the other suggestions. If we utilize that for paratransit, that would only leave 39,000 left in medical transportation. And then demand response diorite is in the same situation. Only this one, instead of having other state, it had prior stiff funding. And sorry, my brain detached. So the note that's attached to this task on the spreadsheet that I just pulled the numbers off of states that this funding was removed to bring it in alignment with the actual rollover funding. So this funding is funding we thought was there that was backwards allocated to a previous plan. So it was reduced, this task was really reduced from 290,000 to 225 to 200,000, 225,000.
Okay.
So there's only 41,000 left in this bucket, and there is no other bucket available for this. So this leaves Dial-A-Ride at a $286,000 deficit.
So just to, because I'm getting a theme here,
Mhm.
right? We did not, we over projected. Is that sort of the theme of the rest of this
Yeah.
is?
So, well, it changes up a little bit in the next
Okay.
project, yeah. So, yes, well, had we not had to take the reduction, some of the projects would not have gone to deficit. Had we not projected STF funding, others of the projects would not have gone to deficit. But the combination of all of these things is what's got us where we are.
And
But
And why were the expenses 40-ish thousand more than what we? So if you would have taken 290 and split it in half, it wouldn't have been 183,000. So why did we spend more in the first 4 quarters than we projected originally?
so in the first 3.5 quarters, Dial-A-Ride, we had increased City of Sutherland and City of Winston's fixed route service to hourly fixed route
Dial-A-Ride
service.
services has to increase accordingly.
Yeah, it triggered the FTA requirement
Okay.
that they be available at all of the hours that the fixed route service was available, which made it great for City of Sutherland and City of Winston. They had additional services available, but
But do we have anything in place to sort of alert us when, I mean, because this probably should have been identified as a potential issue, you know, ongoing. Do we have anything, you know, any systems built into, like, hey, you might need to make a modification,
Dial-A-Ride is spending too much.
right?
at this point, no, we really haven't had anything. I mean, there's things that we in hindsight could have done, that we did not.
So to me, it sort of sounds like we need to be looking consistently at trends. Not just, you know, comparing our,
What's in the bank balance?
right, exactly. Where are we trending? Where are we going? You know,
And where do we need to adjust?
and specifically probably maybe doing quarterly reviews of our budget, and going, what
Our
do we,
budget and our grant expenditures as well.
right, right.
So historically, you haven't had quarterly reviews, ongoing, is that just not? the way
We've
to-
just done the monthly financial review with the board, you know, that was much less detailed prior to the financial review. Yeah,
Yeah, I would strongly encourage.
yeah.
It's easy to say now, but.
Right. And going forward, absolutely, yeah.
It's 2020.
This is one,
It was the increase to services that
Yeah.
triggered the need and
Right,
then it wasn't.
yeah,
allocated correctly. Got it.
yeah. So when we look at the next one, City of Reedsport. So this is all of the City of Reedsport stuff all together. So. And this is wrong too, still wrong.
We'll only mark it incorrect once, okay, Cheryl?
So, honestly, I believe City of Reedsport would greatly benefit from us just leaving what's in this task still allocated to them, even though it was listed as a reserve. It's a reserve they obviously need.
Well, so to go back to that though, really quickly, that's not enough to keep them going for a year.
Not with
Even if we,
Not paying
even
people.
if we transition back to volunteer,
If we transition back to volunteers and leave this funding allocated to them, that increases it from 6,900 a quarter available to them to 8,853 a quarter available to them,
Thing
which is
about,
pretty close.
about to what they were spending.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So, and you know, there again, there is just a historical way that things were done in the
Mhm.
past. And that at the end of the fiscal year or the end of the biennium, there was extra funding that was available to be able to basically soak up any overages. And so when I talked with them last week, I let them know that we just were not there, and I explained where we are with our finances and kind of how we got here, you know. And so, you know, they're aware, they're not fully aware of what we're gonna have to do. So we'll have to do a little bit of planning with them and work on that.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have someone come to the workshop.
Yeah. So, paratransit service is an FTA required service. Currently, fixed route runs from 6:15 AM to 8:15 PM, Monday through Friday. And then 8:15 AM to 6:30 PM on Saturday. Dial-A-Ride service has been reduced, but it only has $41,000 left. So even though it's been reduced, we don't have enough to complete this
What
order.
does paratransit service cost us for a day?
Oh, for a day?
Like like on a Saturday, so. We reduce Saturday service or something like that. I'm just.
Oh,
wondering what does
that's on the
paratransit
next
service
slide.
cost? Oh.
You're jumping ahead. All right, let's see, let's go there. All right, so, yeah. Even if we backfilled with the balance of medical transportation, we really only have enough to finish this quarter at the current rate for Dial-A-Ride service. And then, like I said, City of Reedsport, we just really need to leave that with them if it.
I have a question, bullet 1, 3.1.
Mhm.
When it says the FTA requires service. For the paratransit service, does that mean what goes with, on the other side of that coin is, and then the FTA shall provide the funding needed?
Oh, sure.
Well,
Is that,
so it's up to us
I mean,
to tailor our service to.
you know,
We have to tailor our service within our funding needs. So previously, our fixed route transit service for
Mhm.
because it's hourly fixed route that triggers the need for paratransit.
yeah,
And paratransit is a guaranteed ride for people that have a disability that prevents them from riding the regular fixed route system.
Mhm.
And if they call within 24 hours, they have a guaranteed ride. And that's for anybody that's within 3/4 of an air mile of the Roseburg fixed route service. And there for a while, that included Winston and Sutherland as well. So that greatly expanded that corridor of service. It used to be from 6:40 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning until 6:40 in the evening. That's what the service was. Stiff funding gave us the ability to expand our Roseburg fixed route service. So.
well, I mean, is the expectation that if you
It's-
don't have enough money, that you steal it from another pot to
We-
make it good?
We
The
have to,
expectation is that we're gonna plan our service and have the money that's needed for the service that we plan.
the expectation is we reduce fixed route if we can't afford paratransit.
Yes, and that's next.
This, I mean, this is it's obviously not requirements-based planning, I guess. I don't understand.
Well, you just have to plan your system based on the amount of funds you have.
Yep,
I mean, that should never rise to an issue if it's a quote-unquote requirement.
well,
Is it, I mean, is it
It's
a
just part of
requirement that you provide the service? Okay, the other edge
It's-
is, okay, yes, we'll provide it. Send us the check and we'll do it.
we only provide the service if we're providing hourly fixed route.
Yeah.
That's the only time that it's required, is if we're providing.
So is there any balance to that? I mean, based on, like, is there a limit to the number of rides that we're
Yeah.
required to provide?
No, we
No.
can't turn one away.
So it's then really an unknown cost.
Well,
How do you project for something like that? That's very unknown.
we're typically within the Roseburg fixed route area, able to, would start somebody at the beginning of the service and then somebody else midday that finishes the service. And then we have a third available to take any overrun.
Right, but the number of rides is not limited. So it could be any number of rides.
Yeah.
So is there a mechanism in place, a pushback mechanism in place here? that get
No,
the
this
funding-
is, this is,
Funding matching, I mean, you don't have a point of contact with.
no, the pushback is to us. We're responsible to plan a service that we have enough funding to
Okay.
to provide. So what we're looking at here is the number of service days left in the year, the fiscal year. For Roseburg fixed route and Saturday, the holidays that affect the number of service days. And if we reduced Roseburg fixed route, by 1 hour, instead of 8:15 being 7:15 that it ended, that would reduce or result in 410 revenue service hours if it were done
Mhm.
September 1st. We cannot do it September 1st because we have to have time to notify the public.
Yeah.
But for the, just to put it out there, this is what that would result in. So at 75.18 an hour for fixed route, that would result in a $30,000 reduction in the cost of fixed route. And then corresponding, it would result in at least 210 hours of reduced paratransit service. So those two combined would result in about $50,000 in reductions that could then be applied to the demand response service. We're still not out of the hole, but it's a start.
And
Yes,
the rate of reimbursement for paratransit is set by the feds,
so
correct, or by ODOT?
By the federal, has to be no more than 2 times the fixed route. So if we charge $1 to get on fixed route, then it's $2 for paratransit. If it's $1.50 for fixed route, it's $3 for
That we're being
paratransit.
reimbursed federally?
No, that we're
Or
charging as
that
a
we're
fare.
charging,
We're charging. as
right,
a fare.
but I'm talking about the funds that are actually coming from from
The reimbursement.
the reimbursement rate.
You
Is set
send,
federally.
you send in a reimbursement.
How many hours?
Yeah,
Yeah, so to
Do you get
answer your
10%?
question, our pushback, the only pushback that we would have would be to go to your federal legislators. Your senators, and to preferably somebody that sits on the transit committee.
Yeah.
And explain why we've seen an increase in paratransit because it isn't a fixed cost.
Mhm.
And that reimbursement is no longer an accurate portrayal of what we're seeing here in Douglas County.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you're gonna get anywhere, it's just that's your mechanism of seeing an increase for our reimbursement rate.
Yeah, so that's why I like
Yeah.
back to the quarterly reviews, you know,
Right.
we identify a problem.
Right.
Yep.
First quarter, we got a
Right.
problem.
Yes.
Now we plug into our sponsor.
Yeah.
We've got a problem here and.
But we did not know until we did the financial review, where we had ODOT and RLS came in and did the review. What the issue was, we did not identify the challenge was that 20 to 30%.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your question is like, in theory, our reimbursement rate should cover services.
Should.
So if we're not seeing that that's an accurate portrayal,
Then we need to reduce.
then we
service.
need to, no, but actually, we need to go the other direction. We need to go to our legislators and explain to them why we're not seeing,
Mhm.
why the expenses are higher than they have been historically.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
All right, so as we continue,
So are we charging double right now? We are for, okay.
Yeah.
And I had another question, but I forgot it. I'll ask it when I remember.
Dial-A-Ride is different.
They're all three.
Oh, the requirements to qualify for that service.
oh, for paratransit,
Mhm.
they have to have a disability that prevents them from riding fixed route transit.
And who makes that decision?
Cindy is trained, our downtown office manager, she's trained to do those determinations. Based on whether or not they can make it to a bus stop or stand at a bus stop, or, you know, there are a lot of different things that could prevent you.
Is there like a list of, you know, qualifying requirements? And I just say this because, I mean, distance could be a reason too. I mean,
Well, it,
walking like to a bus stop could
Right.
be a problem for a lot of people.
yes,
Not necessarily that they have a qualifying disability, but, yeah.
well, so a qualifying disability could be like COPD, you can't see it, but
Sure.
like you said, they can't walk to a bus stop.
Right.
And they don't have the stamina to be able to stand at a bus stop.
So do we have any medical requirements for making that determination, or is that a determination that's just made by an employee?
It's made by an employee, but based on do they qualify for social security disability?
Okay,
Or do they have a note from their doctor that says that it's gonna be, you know, they're recovering from whatever the situation is, and they need it for 6 months or 3 months, because there is temporary approval and there's permanent approval.
Did we ask for an award letter from SSID?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there an application?
Yes,
could we see that maybe at our next meeting, what the requirements are?
Yeah, I'd be very careful about denying somebody for whatever reason, if you have the person's disabled, talking to someone who's not a medical professional, so that works for you.
Mhm.
You know, make sure that they understand, you need to be very careful about, you know, you might.
That's why I'm wondering if there are very specific requirements, and if it is, you know, if there is a medical note or something like that, but.
Something objective, actually, because,
Right.
objective evidence is really worth.
If we're asking for an award letter from Social Security, that is very objective.
Yes.
Good.
So.
But is that every case we're
I think that's
requiring?
the greater majority, yes.
So there are cases where it isn't, so, okay.
Yeah, so there are temporary situations where
Mhm.
somebody,
Oh, where they're
say,
bringing in a
comes
note.
from the hospital to,
Mhm.
like, Umpqua Valley Rehab or Rosehaven.
I can imagine somebody's sick,
Mhm.
right? They haven't had a chance to get social security disability yet, but
Right.
they're clearly in trouble.
Clearly can't.
Doctor,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and, well, then there's the obvious, like my mother is, you know, legally blind, so she's obviously not gonna be wandering around. To find a bus stop, so that's pretty
Yeah,
I mean,
obvious.
I think it's just something to talk about and to, you know, fortify the way that you wanna do things.
to make sure we're
And-
consistent with what's being approved.
And what is the qualifier for Dial-A-Ride?
Dial-A-Ride is priority for seniors and people with disabilities. And if we schedule a ride for somebody that is not one of those qualifying factors, then, and somebody else calls in, they get bumped. For the ride, yeah. And I realize, so we had some issues with the network and stuff over the weekend. This and the other presentation, this, it didn't say everything, so I used this medical transportation scenario twice. So, this is not an accurate number, which would, you know, we need to do that in a work
Okay,
session.
we can come back to that.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's not actually that. So, 3.2 dial rate service, it's been reduced and has $41,000 left. Medical transportation income, it isn't enough to resolve this issue. And this is again, another reason why we need a work session, because I don't know how to fix it, but we need to fix it. Because We've already reduced dial ride service. And this would be catastrophic for all of the rural areas in our.
So
district.
what is the requirement for dial a ride? Do we have a similar requirement as
It's.
paratransit?
Yeah, so it's different. It's not necessarily that you can't use fixed route bus system, but it is for seniors and people with disabilities that live outside of the paratransit service area. So they might potentially qualify for paratransit if they were living in the, or not even living, if they were to say, get a ride to the bus stop in Canyonville and get a ride into Roseburg,
Mhm.
and they qualify, and their destination, they're not able to get from the bus stop
Mhm.
to their destination, they would qualify for paratransit service while they're in the paratransit service area.
Right,
So
but is there a
Is there an
requirement?
FTE requirement, I think is your question.
Yes, for us to provide that service.
Not
Are we
FTE, yeah.
FTA?
Thank you.
Yeah,
FTA,
As soon
no.
as I-
there's no,
It's,
okay,
it's not a required service. But I think for us as a district, it's a required service. You know, it's something that, there are a lot of people that depend on. And so this is we have to figure out how to fix this.
Mhm.
Yeah. So project number 4 is admin, so that like it says, supports wages, benefits, materials attributed to admin. Admin is general manager, finance manager, HR director, and the operations admin assistant that does all of our numbers, our numbers that we get for ridership and all of that kind of stuff, yeah. And it did also support the executive assistant. So this, I put this in there just because I wanted to show you that this is the question that we answer as we're completing the projects within the STIF project. It asks whether or not this is an expansion service or if it is for maintaining the existing service. And then you have to explain why you're utilizing this funding entirely to maintain existing service. So,
Are we considered to have existing service if we have had inconsistencies in that?
our admin is absolutely existing service because it's been.
Right,
in
but the
effect.
size of it, I guess, because we've added positions, right?
It's all considered.
It's all considered, okay.
Yeah, yeah, so, but that expand cycle, it naturally ends, when, with maintaining service. So that's why I put the notation in there. So, here we had, a grand total of, with the prior biennium funds that were rolled forward, and prior biennium interest, because that's something that we have to account for as well. All $288 of it. And that was what we expected to have in the project. And it was also reduced, but we have also we used all of the funds from 21-23 is the note that was in the spreadsheet. And I just put that there so that I would remember, because sometimes there's a lot to this, and that without the spreadsheet, I wouldn't remember that. So Q4 admin expenses were 133,000. There's 5311 that's allocated to admin, and we utilize that on a quarterly basis. We just split it into 8 and have been utilizing to ensure that we have some for every quarter. Any cut that we made here could be, I believe, applied to dial-a-ride service, but I have to take a look at that because it's possible admin would have to go to another admin project. I've got to look into the qualified expenses. But I did include in your board packet the stiff substantially. I don't know. I can't remember what the.
Which one?
It is, I added it to your thing, but I didn't print it out. I'm sorry.
Substantially compliant spending.
That's it, compliant, substantially compliant spending. I added that so that, you could, and that might have been the first time I forwarded some of this information to you. But it's in
Was
one of
the
those,
for earlier today?
yeah.
Okay.
And I can re-provide that for you, but it goes, it's just 3 minimal pages about very specifically what you can and cannot do
And
within
I
the
think
projects.
we need to talk about that more when we get into the work session, so it's
Yes.
probably fine that
Yeah.
we just look at that.
Yeah.
And
All
looking
right.
at where to put numbers.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So let's see here. Capital projects are 5, 6, and 7. So we initially thought that we were gonna have a grand total and vehicle purchase of 220,000 from the previous biennium and 100,000 from this biennium. But when you take the 22% reduction, that gives us an actual beginning balance of 77,730. And the same thing with the capital improvements, the PM for the project where we were gonna build the preventive maintenance, and that was the match for the 5339 grant. So we came into this biennium thinking that we had 544,000 that we already had in reserve. And that we were adding an additional 100,000 to that project number 6. And that funding had to be. I can't see.
87?
Okay, so, and this is not one that we backwards allocated because this is the current plan.
Okay.
So it's just reduced by that. Thank you, Janice. So,
Don't fall over
Yeah.
these.
yeah, but the $229,000 expenditure that you see here is actually funding that was transferred over from project number 6 to project number 5 for the vehicle purchase. Because there was not enough in the vehicle purchase reserve to cover what that ended up being after the increases to the cost of the vehicles and things of that nature. What we had not, we thought we had zeroed this out. But when we, and that was the intent with that $229,000 transfer. But when we do the 22% cut, then it actually gives us a negative 22,000 that we need to, or should, I believe, should
So we
transfer
under
from.
zeroed it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, well, no, so that we can zero it out again. It
Mm.
needs 22,000 to zero it out. Right now, it's at a $22,000 deficit
Deficit, okay.
because of the reduction. We tried to do it, but we missed. And so this takes us down to 284,000 in that total capital improvement project
Mhm.
number 6. But then you've got to look at subtracting the 22,000 from that as well. The bus shelter, we have down from 10,000 down to 7,775 available. That was to be combined with the 23,000. So that actually gives us a total of just about 30,000 for the bus shelter reserve. And so the capital vehicle reserve. Here again, part of our challenge was we thought that we had other state funding that was being applied to this. So that's part of where some of that deficit came from. The capital vehicle reserve is just a reserve to ensure that we have the appropriate match for funding our vehicle purchases. Project number, oh, we're still there, project number 5. And this just outlines what we just went over. The 22,000 still needs to come over to zero that out. And that 229,000, we thought we had accomplished that, but alas. Project number 6 kind of goes over that same thing. We had the prior biennium funds. This is the 644,000 that we thought that we had as match money for the 5339 grant for the capital improvements for the building and parking. And this oh, okay, same thing. This is the funding that was transferred to project number 5. But we'll still need to transfer the 22,000 to zero that one out. So that'll leave a total balance that should be in our capital reserve of 311,000 on that. And then, did I just go backwards?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It must be getting late. Shelter match there again, where we had anticipated getting a grant for about 180,000, utilizing this as match to be able to replace about 10 shelters. But again, that did not materialize. So we've got a total of 30,775 that by the end of the biennium, so by the end of June, that's what the total should be in this shelter match. We have not received all of that yet. So this is the income and expense that Sherry did for us. So as of 7/25, our bank balance. And then the stiff income that we expect for Q2, 3, and 4. The stiff Q1 balance that was due at that time, but I believe we've already received that. Is that correct? Yes. The 5311 Q4 reimbursement, the 5310 Q4 reimbursement. And then the 5311 balance of funds available for 24-25. The 5310 balance, it really does say balance, it's just covered by that. And then the expected fare box income and the expected medical transportation income. So when I started with a medical transportation income number, I reduced it by the expenses that are attributed to medical transportation. So for a total income of $4,303 and $4,303,000. Total expenses projected at $4,190,000, which would leave us with an unexpended funds of $112,000. The only piece that we did not take into account there is that there is capital reserve expected of 371,000. These funds cannot be expended for anything other than capital. And they cannot be rolled forward into another plan and utilized before. I mean, our next plan, we can roll them forward to be utilized in the next plan. But they cannot be used for operations. So it's a false security. This is the expectation that by the end of the biennium, based on the plan that we adopted, that was approved by Oregon Transportation Commission, and then put into place that we agreed with ODOT as grant number 35544. That's the number that we have to have in the bank as reserve by the end of
The 371, 153.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Which actually, gives us a negative 258
So we
So-
need to come up with $258,000.
minimum,
Okay,
a minimum. That would give us a zero balance. And then in addition to that, we received the letter from ODOT, I believe it was Friday afternoon,
yes,
where they.
and that
had-
does not account for that letter.
It
Okay,
does not, because at the time that I.
Remind me what that is. I'm sorry.
the Chargers,
Got it.
And
they
the
would like
streets.
to us to
Got it,
pay
got
that
it.
money back.
I'm good to know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like,
Two
I'm
hundred and
not,
fifty thousand.
not tracking yet.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're looking at about
Half
500,
a million.
yeah.
And how much can we sell the Chargers for?
Well, if we can sell them for full price, that would be 280,000.
Okay.
And here's something that we do need to look into, just because we know that Proterra knew they were going to be going out of business. There's got to be some sort of, something in place there. Can we return them? Have we even explored that option?
They wouldn't even, I tried to delay delivery. I told them we had no place to put them and they put them on a truck and shipped them here and we showed up on Monday morning and they were already offloading them off the truck.
So
Awesome.
that's still though,
They knew they were going.
Can we-
Yeah.
They
can
delivered
we
them
force
after
them
the-
to take them back?
I don't know.
Thank
weren't they
you.
ordered?
Well,
Yes.
we ordered them under the premise that we would have continued support for that purchase, that we
But
would
it was
have,
gonna take 2 years to deliver.
right, that, and also that we would have a company, I'm assuming, that we would continue to deal with, right, for anything, any problems that may happen, whatever. They were purchased by another company,
Yes,
Right.
they were purchased.
but the liabilities for that purchase exist, right? You can't just say, well, I have no responsibility for the company that I, purchased all this business from. Is there a possibility for us to be able to return the Chargers? I think we should explore
The
that.
the new.
To the new
owner.
company.
And then.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if we need to have our attorney involved in helping us do that, I think we should start there because we're talking about
Yeah.
$280,000.
Agreed.
Not done.
Yeah,
Or find somebody that we could transfer them to.
Yeah.
at full
I-
price,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a problem with that because you don't have the same support. So we had sort of talked about this at the last meeting, where now you have a product that's maybe not worth as much as it was when you purchased it because you don't have the same support from the company. Is that a breach of contract?
They don't even.
John brought that up. I'm not the genius there, by the
But they're
way.
not offering, it's the company that you made the contract with for them. No longer exists, is that right, or they?
Right.
Well, they were
So the-
acquired
They were
by
acquired.
another
Yeah,
company.
but they were acquired by the other company, the other company doesn't wanna offer a warranty.
Oh, I do not know, because we haven't got that far because we didn't install them. But they were, Volvo is the one that took Proterra power, and so that was the Chargers.
Yeah,
So I am assuming that they were gonna honor the warranty
And that-
and things of that nature.
Usually
is
during
a-
an
that is a
acquisition, you do have to acquire the liabilities
Yep.
as well. So
That's
I would
true.
look at that contract and say, what is our option for being able to return? There's gotta be something in there.
And
I
know
mean,
that
I
you
would
had
look,
requested that
Yeah.
information and I just couldn't access it over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I'll get to. going
because
back
that could
through
be
the
a
email
big,
requests. Yeah.
that could be a big get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Is
So,
it return, I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
sure, yes.
Is it returning just because now you realize you're not financially capable of taking on the vehicle? Cause that might not
Sort
be a
of.
reason to return. Think about when you go buy a car at a car dealership
Mhm.
and you've waited so long, you can't just return your car, like, you know what? I
Sure.
can't make my
Well,
payment, I'm gonna send everything.
We would have been able to complete it though. The
Mhm.
part of the problem is that because of COVID and it delayed all of the manufacturing of these vehicles, when we made the purchase and when we had the intent to purchase, we also had the intent to buy the electric vehicles that then were delayed. And so it's not completely, our fault that that we weren't able to get those
It's more like
vehicles.
Ford went out of business and they're not gonna have the warranty.
Well, the additional piece to that, that has been added is that this last week that ODOT decided to cancel the grant. So there's no longer a grant, to complete the project.
For free then.
Jennifer, I can't touch your hand to get, but you can talk. Sorry.
So as far as the chargers, and I don't know if you want me to wait until it's my little section, but, so on the chargers, the agreement wasn't fully executed until 4/24 of 24. It's backdated to 11/1. However, the purchase order for those chargers was done on 10/6. So even if ODOT wanted to assist in this, it was purchased before the grant agreement was fully executed. So that is an issue. I don't believe we didn't get the contract for that. We got the PO. And the invoice is all that I got as part of that reimbursement request. So that's part of the reason that the chargers cannot be paid. In addition, as far as the FTA is concerned, because those were purchased prior to NEPA, because they are, even though many people feel that they're equipment, they are part of construction, and therefore FTA would not pay for those. So that's why we had to cancel that agreement. FTA has asked us to cancel it because the items were purchased prior to execution of the agreement. So that is why that is in place. As you're looking at there's a couple of things that you can do to stay consistent within your spending. If a project is canceled, then you are able to move funds from one project to another. So you have to stay consistent within that spending, but if the project is canceled, you can move the funds. So there are options for ensuring that you have the funding.
Which projects would those funds be eligible for?
The ones that were capital match for the FTA grants that are being canceled.
Okay,
But
And
it
then
can
just-
only be moved to capital.
yeah,
correct?
only to capital.
Right,
So
so
we
they
think
but we
that-
don't have any other capital.
Yeah. They actually, I believe if a project is completely canceled, that there is an option to be able to move those, and especially with the circumstances that you guys are in.
Across
And then-
capital and options, is that what you're saying, Jennifer?
There could be options. Yeah, we'd have to get approval from the program services. And then just on a note, as far as having, unless you check the box on your STIF plan for having it be a reserve project, then that's the only time that you have to move those projects forward to that exact project. So basically, a STIF plan, unless you specifically mark it on the plan as being a reserve project that the funds are going to be used in future STIF plans, that's the only time that you have to save the money for that specific project. You have opportunity to move it to whatever your STIF stack committee decides is the best. Oftentimes they will say they want to keep it as a capital project and move it forward. But unless you specifically mark it, you're not going to be held responsible for moving those funds into that specific project in your next STIF plan. The STIF plans are 2-year plans. You go from the beginning to the end, and at the end of that plan, unless you specifically marked it as carry forward to another year, everything is free game. You can move the money wherever you want to move it.
So what would be the date that we would be able to move these funds?
July.
July of 2025?
Mhm.
So 26.
Yeah, and one other thing that I want to just, and I've mentioned this before, but if you guys had your funding going into the local government account, I was talking with Melissa Metz this week. They make $8,000 a month on their funds because the money is in an investment account. And then they take a draw to pay their monthly payments. But the funding is set in the local government account, and then they're earning much more than you get from a regular old bank account, which is less than 1%, I think, right now. So that's something to really think about over this next biennium, is putting your monies into the local government account.
That would pay for Reed's part.
Yeah, it would.
Well, nothing.
And David just raised his hand.
Oh, David.
David, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to clarify something. So these chargers just showed up one day with no advance notice?
That's correct. I was telling them we could not take delivery. We did not have any place to put them.
Okay. I feel like Jennifer, would you hop on here for a minute?
Yes.
I would like to address this, please. May I address this?
I think we need to address it with the board and with Cheryl.
I would like to stick a pin in this one, and I would like to come back to this with the board at a later moment, if I may. Would that be all right, Board Chair?
I would like to hear what he has to say as a taxpayer. Secrets are not what we do.
I am aware of a lot of information, and I have been requested to restrain myself in my comments within this board meeting. I will have some comments near the end, but if Jennifer Boardman would like me to reserve these comments for a later date, I'm afraid I have to defer to my coworkers and my superiors in this matter.
Our chain of command.
I think that,
Yes.
That's appropriate.
why don't you go ahead and roundtable that with Jennifer, just to make sure it isn't something that's subject to executive committee. But if it's not, then I agree with our guests here that this is a public meeting and we can discuss public things. We're getting some feedback though. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But if you're not speaking, if you could mute, that would be awesome.
I'm going to hop off for a minute then, and I'm going to have a discussion with Jennifer Boardman really quick. So please carry on without me here, but I would like to reserve a comment for later during public comment if possible, or during Jennifer's time.
We also have an ODOT report coming up soon, so.
Okay.
Maybe I have
Thank
to
you.
work, I had no idea the meeting was gonna be this long.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it will be. It is available to stream if you want to jump on your phone, or it will be on, the recording will be on our
I have a
YouTube.
comment to make during public
Oh.
comment. What I was asking if we could move the public comment up. Like, to
Where are we in the?
Final slide.
Okay,
We just, my recommendation is that we do a combination of cutting service and reducing staff. Yeah.
okay, and then, but we're not done with 9.
Yeah.
Action plan updates and general manager's report.
So her request is to move 12 up to
The middle of
9.1.
1A.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
You can make that decision.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask the rest of the
She's here
board.
for the whole time.
For-
I can try to speak.
Yeah, for input. Does anybody mind moving public comment?
Not at all.
The thing is if we do public comment now, we're not moving public comment again later.
Right.
So are you sure that you want to do public comment now or reserve it for the end of the meeting or closer to the end?
Oh, just like Jennifer.
I don't know, do you see some landmines here, something by not?
No.
I don't care one way or the other. It's just we have some other things to go over, and if we're not doing public
In,
comment 3
in
times.
theory, something could come from the rest of the meeting
Exactly.
that somebody
they'd
can
wanna
then
comment
not
on.
comment on because
Right.
we've moved
I
it.
don't.
Won't be
we
here
have a
for
problem.
it.
Okay,
So,
that's fair.
so they need to be aware that they are waiving their right to make any other comment on anything that is being discussed
Yes.
in
Future.
public.
And we need
Future.
to also know if anybody online that's here for public comment has any objection to that.
Right.
So I'll just give a moment for anybody to unmute themselves online that has any objection to make public comment.
It looks like Ben's hand is up.
I think that's where your cursor is.
I saw the same thing.
Okay, so anyone else in the audience, just quickly, public comment, are you opposed to moving it? Does anybody have any objection? All right, do we need to formally amend the agenda? Are we okay to just move forward, you guys?
I think we're okay to move forward.
I'm okay
You
with
can make
Okay,
that.
all right, we're moving to public comment. Does anyone have public comment? If you could just state your name, for the record.
Yeah, I'll stand up. I'm sorry, there's a terrible light. I can't see everyone. Hi, I'm Jennifer Bragg. I actually used to be on the transportation district years ago when it first formed. I resigned. I ran again, got reelected, and I resigned. And the reason I resigned is because when this happened, I didn't want to be sitting where you guys are now. I refused to be part of one of the most beautiful projects I've ever been a part of, which was Dial-A-Ride. That was a market where it was all based on volunteers. We have this wonderful program. And I refuse to be a part of its destruction, which is what we're seeing now. The writing has been on the wall for a very long time. This is nothing new by any means. The compliance issues are the same issues I heard sitting here as a board member. The, oops, I forgot to send this email. Oops, I didn't realize there was this deadline. Oops, I didn't realize this funding needed to be moved here. Oops, I had no idea that I used this funding here when it should have been here. It's the exact same issues. And as a taxpayer, but bigger than that, as someone who advocates for people that are marginalized anyway in our society, which is adult with disabilities or senior citizens, this is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. You're talking about cutting, I don't want to cry. You're talking about cutting funds from people that have no voice every day. I'm sorry. These people have no voice. You're their voice. I want to explain to you what happened to my Dial-A-Ride program. My Dial-A-Ride was funded through an RFP process, but because there was an issue with the general manager that didn't understand the process correctly, we had to RFP again. In our second RFP, our QuickBooks crashed at my nonprofit. We submitted everything and a detailed letter explaining that our QuickBooks crashed and I couldn't supply the one item they needed. They came back and completely took our program from it. We had this program for over a decade plus, all ran on volunteers, not one person paid. Today, because our Dial-A-Ride program is now run through the transit district, it's unrecognizable. It's a rolling effect. Our senior center in town is getting ready to close. Senior Mills, there's no one that comes. We're getting ready to close because of people in this room. Seniors don't get meals. People are not getting rides to doctor's appointments or just to get simple groceries. Do not sit down and continue to marginalize the people that are marginalized every day. Take action now. This writing has been on the wall, which is why I ran. I could not be a part of the destruction of human lives in the county I live in with the people I love and fight for every day. You're talking about cutting operations managers and this, that, and the other. Cut it. Cut that, cut the general manager position, go out to Prothman, get a headhunter and get in here tomorrow and fix this. Get someone that knows what they're doing immediately. Why are you shaking your head, ma'am?
Well, my mom is disabled, I'm disabled, my mom gets groceries, my mom gets rides.
Okay,
It's
do
not a
they live in
problem.
Yoncalla?
Okay,
or
I'm
in-
gonna call this to order just really quickly. This is meant to be public comment. This does not mean interaction
Okay,
between the
sorry,
board
she
and
just
the.
looking
I
at me
know,
shaking her head.
I
wasn't sure
understand,
if I
this-
needed
but
to
this
stop.
is public comment. The board is not going to respond to public comment. We are here to listen to what you have to say.
That's fine.
And we're not going to have interaction back and forth. I'll give you about another minute.
Yeah, again,
Go ahead.
I am begging you on behalf of every senior citizen and person with disabilities that lives in Douglas County to take the correct manner of action, because I hold every single one of you responsible for what's happening. You know why? You have one employee, one, not two or three. You have one employee. When your employee self-admittedly surrounds themselves with what they call incompetency, that is very questionable. And I'm not using those words myself. Those were used here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right,
Sherry Muthart. I was
could you say your last name again?
Muthart.
Muthart.
I was also one of the original board members and it was about a year. I saw the same stuff. I left before Jennifer because I will not be my money. This is what's going on. This is my money. And it's disappearing somewhere. I don't know where it's going. You guys need to get somebody, forensic accountant in here and find the money. Okay, this is ridiculous, all the reds. Where Jennifer's talking about is the rural areas. We're not talking Roseburg. We're not talking Sterling. We're not talking Winston. We're talking Looking Glass, Clyde, Yoncalla, Elkton. All the white spots in the road. You guys need to service these people. All right? You guys are letting them down. Okay, and I'm sorry, that grant. That is. I just bought a bus for $215,000 and my grant was in place before I ever ordered that thing a year ago. And I got $50,000 and that thing went to the junkyard because I have to get rid of every vehicle on my lot. It has a DEF. By
Yeah.
January 1st, 2026. You know what I'm
Yes,
talking
I
about.
know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
It's the DEF, it's the additive to the fuel, it's a deep for a diesel.
Thank you.
ODE has made a requirement, they extended it 1 year, and it's January, well, ODE didn't, the state did it.
Yeah,
January 1st of 2026. I have one more vehicle. And I'm applying for another grant, we've just missed one, we're going for another one in January.
And can you state where you're from?
Roseburg,
You're
I
from
live a
Roseburg,
mile
but,
from here.
but what is this grant for? Is it for?
It's
program?
Volkswagen grant. Volkswagens years ago got caught doing things wrong
Mhm.
and now they have to pay back by giving grant money.
And are you part of an organization or just you
Yes.
personally? And
School
what,
district,
school district, okay. for
Starland.
Roseburg? Southern.
Starland. No, Roseburg doesn't run transportation. They can't afford it. Because of. They just found out how much I just spent on a bus. And I bought an 84 passenger bus with a wheelchair lift for one student in our district. And he is going into the 3rd grade and I went, no, I'm buying it so he can travel with his classmates. And this is what you guys are excluding people like this. Okay? His parents have to get him to school because we don't have the means to get up to his house. But he can go on class trips with his kids and I was willing to spend that money for one child. And I'd do it again. But you guys need to step up. And operations manager, you need to fight like heck to keep your operations manager. Because that is the person that keeps things running. Your supervisors, you don't want to pass their jobs on to somebody down below them. Because they're the ones that need to be here and look that driver right in the eye and say, I think you need to go for a random today. Okay, I do that every morning at 5:30. That's why I'm wanting to get out of here. I'm usually in bed by now. My alarm clock goes off at 4:30 in the morning and I've not had dinner yet.
Mhm.
Because I'm so adamant about this. Okay, I look at every driver that comes into my office every morning and speak to them. And and I am the only one as drug and alcohol. Trained. I'm the only one that can send them in. And we get random. Yes, we go through Aki House, through the consortium. I know very much how to, and 5 months to get a letter into, I have yearly reports that have to go in. And my yearly report is due September 1st. It was turned in first week of August. And that's with every vehicle with a full inspection on it, which takes anywhere from a day to 2 days. Brake pads are measured, brake drum, everything's measured down to the inch, the quarter inch. Everything's measured. The tire tread is measured. They strip that bus down and they look through it. Each vehicle is checked off by a state certified mechanic.
So, we're gonna have to wrap up.
Yeah,
public
that's
comment,
fine, but
I would like to encourage you. It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge. It sounds like this information that you're providing to us, and also, that you
No, she's
provided
got a lot.
of course, we do have vacancies on committees. We need expertise.
No.
We need people that are
No,
that are involved, but maybe consider it. Is there any other public comment?
Dave has got his hand up.
David has his hand up.
Okay, David.
He has to be unmuted.
Oh, you got it.
Yes, ma'am.
unmute.
Yes, ma'am. So
You're
yeah,
up.
David Campbell, I'm the compliance program coordinator over at ODOT. I'll be running the compliance review that'll be taking place next week. I've been advised not to currently discuss what was said about the receipt of those chargers. So I will be holding on to that information, but I would like the board to recall that it is twice that they've been told that those chargers just showed up one day and there was no opportunity to talk to Proterra and refuse that shipment. So please just remember that as we get into the coming weeks of discussions here. I also want to point out that in regards to an earlier public comment that was made about how these all seem to be repeat things that are happening, in 2021, a compliance review was done of UPTD, and one of the main highlights was a complete lack of subrecipient oversight, in which Rich Garrity, considered to be the preeminent source of knowledge in almost the United States on transit compliance, said that there need to be subrecipient oversight rules in place within the contracts with subrecipients, and that one of the main areas of oversight that's missing is a drug and alcohol program. So this was not tied to volunteer drivers or paid drivers. This has been a requirement the entire time and was told to UPTD in 2021. Currently, why I recommend caution, and I've done this in a board meeting previously, is that for Reedsport in particular, what has made this complicated is that there has been no contract for 2.5 years. There have been no contracts with the other subrecipients for at least a year. So these are major areas of compliance oversight. So as you sit here and discuss, here's how much more money we should be giving to an organization, just please bear in mind, there are no contracts in place. So I just wanted to leave that as my comment there, and that it was noted by Rich Garrity in 2021 that a violation of drug and alcohol oversight compliance can result in the loss of all federal funding. So that is deeply concerning to me, and that this still has not been addressed, and that these contracts have never been put into place, and that UPTD doesn't even know how many drivers Reedsport even employs. We started off with 2 drivers, which quickly then turned into 3, and now there are 4 drivers, of which nobody at UPTD really even knows who they are. There are no training records. There is a complete lack of oversight of these subrecipients, which is deeply concerning, and I think should concern every member of this board. I would also like to say that in regards to the upcoming compliance review, UPTD has been aware of this for over 7 weeks. I know that the management team was just informed about it about mid last week, but it certainly would have helped get all those documents together faster had maybe the management team been informed of this compliance review and the requested documents more than a week ago. And that is the only comments that I have. I will reserve the rest for future conversations with UPTD and its board. Thank you.
All right. I do believe that we've mentioned the compliance review is coming up in the last several board meetings. So I do believe that information was public, but thank you, David. We appreciate your.
It was public knowledge. It wasn't relayed specifically to managers, is I think what he's saying.
We were just given a list of the documents that that RLS was requesting.
So we are going to move on to 9.2 action plan updates. Actually, let's see, we are at 8:35. It's been a little over an hour since our last break. Does anybody need a break or are we okay to move forward?
Can I speak before?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you? I didn't realize there was more comment.
Hi, my name is Lula Landy, and I started out
I'm
with
sorry. Could you repeat your name?
Lula, Lula,
Mhm.
Landy, Lendi. I started out with ERCOG, and from ERCOG, I went to the county, and from the county, UCAN took over, and I stayed with UCAN. I was with UCAN for a while. And then I chose to leave, and I came back to see if I could get a part-time job. And I was asked to come back as a supervisor.
Mhm.
And so I said, yes, I would love to. So I was operations supervisor there, and things have happened that's going on now that was with UCAN, and it was addressed to the board. And they would not do anything about it. So it's an ongoing process that's been going on for years. And I just want to let you know, I loved my job. I chose not to go with UPTD when it transferred over because of this issue. And it's just gonna go down if you guys don't do something, and it's our tax dollars. And if everybody finds out about this, I can see them doing a recall, taking it back. And that's all I got to say. And I appreciate you letting me talk.
Awesome. Thank you so
All
much.
right, you ready? Yes, go.
Thank you for moving.
Thank you.
forward, Everyone, thank you.
All right. Is there any other public comment? I think someone stood up before, but no, I don't see anything. Okay. Do you guys need another recess for a break or you want to move on with it? Move on. Okay, 9.2 action plan updates.
So we went through the action plan and adopted it, re-adopted it with the updates ODOT had provided during our last meeting. So,
That is this packet, by the way, you guys, that wasn't in the,
oh, yeah.
but make sure you got one. Did everybody get one?
So a lot of it is the same,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of it is the same as the previous action plan that we had. The, going through, starting with page 1, board recommends weekly managers meetings to discuss related management, discuss related management related to the district. Okay, to discuss things.
Before we get into this, are we planning to go through every single page of this action plan?
No, a lot of it is already, it's in progress and already has the comments associated with it.
Okay,
Like number 2, position descriptions are complete. Meeting with the board of directors must directly monitor recommendations with periodic one-on-ones with supervisors or managers. That first meeting happened today with the executive team and members of management.
Yep.
And one-on-ones. Number 4, it says board should monitor staff interactions and ensure chain of command is being followed and actions do not interfere with day-to-day operations of the district. And I have a comment that I will hold from that.
I actually have a comment on that, because I do think that there are a few things in this action plan that I think do need to be revisited. And I think specifically they need to be revisited about what the board's role is in, oversight of, for instance, the general manager, whereas we do not want to be involved in the general operations, of the district. And so looking through some of these things, I'm seeing there may be a possibility for modifying a couple of them, just to make sure that we're sort of not playing a role that we were not intended to play as a board. So
So do you want to move the update on this to work plan when we do the finance?
we could do that, but I would say if we do that, well, first, I think we need to allow any questions that people may have on the current one that was provided, but also, because of the delay in getting the packet, just because of the network issues. It's also, I don't expect that everyone's read through every single one of these things, so. if we wanted to move this, we could move this. But I think that we need to have the expectation that the board take a deep look at this and that we be prepared to have a robust discussion about it shortly when we do our work session, which needs to be soon.
Okay,
What does everybody think?
Agreed.
Okay,
all right.
that doesn't require a vote, I don't believe. We'll do that in agenda build.
Okay. All right, so next one would be, well, general manager report. Really, I had provided ongoing reports to you guys throughout the week regarding various different updates. And the only thing really left is the ridership. And so our ridership for 12 months is continuing to increase. At our fixed route ridership for the last 12 months came up to 104,969, so almost 105,000, which is the highest that it's been since pre-COVID. And Saturday service continues to increase as well. And over the last 12 months, we've provided 6,647 rides. The third page that shows the ridership comparison shows that in 24-25, we've consistently been above all the other years. And the I just lost my voice. I'll let you peruse the rest of the ridership numbers. I'll try to get my voice back.
Okay, let me see if we have any specific questions on ridership. No.
I thought you didn't use the good one. I took her out before, but the problem was I needed to give her a medication and I didn't get it to her till late, so.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'm by the door.
Okay. When we have a chance, I'm gonna take her back out.
I think we're gonna be pretty close to wrapping up.
I don't have any questions. Do you have questions?
I don't really have anything that's jumping out at me. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on ridership? Okay, that's informational only. We do not need to take any action. Jennifer, ODOT update.
Yeah, the only thing that I have is that I hope that the board is really seriously reviewing the letters that were sent. Those dates are non-negotiable. Many of those compliance items have been ongoing for quite some time. And so these commitments need to be met. UPTD is considered one of our highest risk agencies in the state right now. I'm concerned, that y'all, the planning is going to be the key for you guys moving forward. And I think that that's part of the problem that has gotten you into the situation that you are, is that there wasn't enough planning when you implemented the new changes the previous summer. We are working on trying to get technical assistance for people to get planning help. There are agencies that we have that, such as RVTD and Josephine County, that have offered help. And I would highly recommend that any help that you guys ask, that you could direct it their direction, because they have offered to help. So definitely utilize the resources that are out there, and please meet the deadlines.
We hear you loud and clear. Thank you, Jennifer. All right. Not on agenda. Does anybody have anything that is not on agenda? Mhm. Um. Are we going into executive session?
We will. Do we want an agenda build before or after?
I think we should do it after,
Okay.
just in case we have things that come out of that. All right. So. Everyone online, we are going to be going into executive session and we don't have any board members online. So I'm gonna go ahead and read. We'll be going into executive session based on ORS 192.6602I and ORS 192.6608 to review and evaluate the performance of an officer, employee, or staff member if the person does not request an open hearing. This reason for executive session may not be used to do general evaluations of an agency goal, objective, or operation, or any directive to personnel concerning those subjects. ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons you have designated to negotiate real property transactions. All right, and I think that's it.
So seeing as we don't have any board members online, we could mute and stop video, stop recording, and
Sure.
allow them to wait in the waiting room if they choose to.
That's perfect.
Unmute.
You can let everybody in.
Yeah, we got people
They're,
sitting in the waiting room.
In it all.
Oh,
I cannot believe it's almost 10 o'clock.
Isn't it lucky my dog doesn't respond to the doorbell?
It's true.
Yeah. My dog's become crazy. Yeah.
That is a
All
true
right,
statement.
we are resuming our regular session. Do I have to read anything, Cheryl?
no.
Okay, I'm good.
At what time?
Yeah.
At 9:52, thank you. All right,
Is that AM or PM?
so we still have, we gotta do our agenda build, but we are going to go ahead and set a special meeting for, set a work session. We'll go ahead and do that for Wednesday, September 4th at 4 PM, if that works for everyone.
Yes.
And then, we also, well, I'll let you go ahead.
Aren't we setting the
Yeah.
special?
Yeah,
She did the first one. So I move to accept Cheryl's resignation.
okay.
Second,
Effective what, September?
Oh, thank
13th?
you. Effective September 13th.
Is that your last day or the first? You worked through September 13th?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Put it in.
yeah, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
I'll make a motion that we advertise for general manager position. I'll second that.
all right. All those in favor of posting the GM position, say aye.
I
Aye. Those opposed?
move to explore looking into consultants.
or
GM position.
you have to look at the general manager.
GM position and possible restructure.
I'd like to amend it to the GM position and also, did we say organizational
Yeah, possible
restructuring?
restructure.
Yeah.
Second.
I'm taking his motion and amending it.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so you'll motion and you'll
He
second.
seconded.
Okay, perfect. All those in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So let's go ahead and set a special meeting to, look over that consulting opportunity. Let's do, Friday, 9 AM, just virtual meeting if everyone's available.
This Friday.
Yes.
This Friday. This
This
Friday
Friday.
is, what's the date? Sorry. guys.
23.
23.
9:23.
8:23.
8:23, I'm jumping
Give
ahead.
us our month. back.
Okay, it is almost 10 o'clock, okay.
Fair. Very fair.
Okay, and then we just need to do an agenda build really quickly. Let's try to get that done so we can get out of here. We need to. We need to keep the 7.1 drug and alcohol compliance review update on there. Add that one back on. The status, well, actually, are we building, we're building for the next monthly meeting.
Yes,
Monthly,
yes.
yeah.
So we won't need
November's
to
meeting.
do the compliance. Well, status of the compliance review, I guess will be new business, so we can sort of move that. We don't need the document upload, that will already be a moot point.
So
But we
we're
can
gonna
go over
update the, trying to figure out what the name of it was
What
again.
that one is?
This one. The,
We're updating that
action
one.
plan,
Action.
so
There you
just
go.
an update on the action plan items.
Also, well, during our work session, we had agreed that we're gonna go over the action plan items as well and take a quick look at those to see if they all remain
Correct.
correct and what we wanna
Yes.
continue doing. So can we add that to the agenda for the work session?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do an update on action plan too at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
And the agenda build should be for September, not July.
Yes,
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
July there.
yeah. I must have been a file.
There are a
Guys.
couple, whatever month we're in.
September, it would be
September
September 16th, yes.
Do we wanna just keep monthly one-on-ones on here ongoing since we're having a discussion? If there's anything that needs to be elevated to the board, we at least have a place to be able to elevate that. Okay. We'll add that and then. Board and leadership training, will we have completed training by that point?
9:25.
No.
Yeah.
25, so
No, not yet.
do we wanna just keep that on there as a reminder? Or are we good to just? cross that off?
9:25, okay. That made
It's
most
up to you. I'll be it.
Yeah.
You'll be, yeah.
What do you guys wanna do?
I'll be Joe Public by then.
Okay,
I would say.
strike it.
Strike it
Okay.
until October.
And then status update for contracts, titles, we're gonna need to
We're gonna need
revisit that,
that.
so
Yes.
add that back on.
Yep.
STIP project updates, of course, and general manager report.
Could we discuss having a, it's so late, I can't even think, a trial service policy?
What is that?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
trial service,
Yeah.
you mean for
Um,
our job
all
postings?
employees.
for all employees,
Everyone.
all.
That would be
all
under new
future,
business?
It would be a
Yes.
policy.
Employee, okay.
Do we need to update the other policy at that same time, the direct report?
That is a disciplinary action policy.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
No.
The temporary.
Yeah, it's the one that the executive
Yes.
committee, when we voted on the original,
Yeah,
the one where they have to, all the complaints kind of, that's driven all the
Complaints driven,
complaints to
there you
the
go.
executive committee.
Well, that's part of our executive committee bylaws,
Yeah.
but I think we need to
Might need
make
to
that
address
policy a little bit more robust.
agreed.
Um,
I think we need to do it sooner than
It's
later.
caused a lot of problems.
We need to do it sooner than
is
later.
there anybody that's willing to compose a proposal for a
think
policy
I
that we have adopt? I mean, you have enough.
Can you? Do I have a copy of that? The current?
I can send it to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, so you will come up with a policy that we can
No,
possibly
draft.
adopt, okay. And do we want to address the disciplinary policy?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, can you add the disciplinary policy on there as well?
Oh, so that's not the one that you,
No,
Whatever the complaint policy thing is,
That's-
if that's disciplinary, then.
well, it kind of has to do with the discipline too, where she can't really discipline them unless it goes through the executive. Yeah.
I think it's all the same.
so it's all
I
the
think it is
same,
the same.
okay,
It's all the
so
okay.
Yeah,
revisit that,
Okay.
rewrite it.
just some policy.
Yep. It's not right, it does not
Okay.
read well.
What else? We're gonna wanna revisit
No, it's
any,
separate, 6 months.
That's a different thing, yeah, that's cross service. yeah.
potential applications we've received.
I
for general
want to make
manager.
sure we have that.
So
Yeah.
just in case, I don't know if we'll be prepared to make that decision at that point in time,
Yeah.
probably not, but who knows?
In theory, I guess,
We should probably keep it running.
running on the agenda.
So it
Agreed.
doesn't get
Lost.
forgotten. Yep. So GM position. All right, anything else, you guys?
Um, just thinking the GM position description, well, we just did that, I guess, so, never mind, I guess we're
Mhm.
Yeah, so,
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
written out.
We can review it in our session on Friday, just to ensure that it reads well.
We
Before
probably,
posting.
I don't know, I hesitate
idea.
to say whether or not to put the operations manager on there.
Probably wait for the restructure.
I think we.
I thought so too, yeah,
Mhm.
let's pause that, okay, all right. Anything else? No? All right, what time is it?
Late.
Okay, oh, it's 10 o'clock,
10 o'clock.
exactly.
Deal.
All right,
And close.
and we're closed.